Good evening, everybody. A week late, a dollar short, but here we are. We have with us the Nerdporeal Lifeform, or should we say the Admiral. He's sitting in the house, got the red carpet treatment coming in here. First of all, I'd like to say hello to my super wrench there, John Rendell. Of course, the old man's in the house. Hey, there's some guy by the name of Nerdporeal
I
in the
don't
chat
know
here.
any Nerdporeal. I got my own house, Baron.
DJ Ronnie G, Phil McCracken. He seems to have immigrated over, probably with a little help from Pacific 414 and Cash Money. Of course, the lovely and beautiful, talented Rough Girl. Good to see you all. And I just let you know, last week we had a bit of a storm out this way. That's the reason why we had uh, uh, the cancellation. I was getting brownouts and everything. It was fun. It really was fun. And I just realized something. I don't have a light on.
I'll be
I
honest,
don't
it was
have a light
pretty
on.
windy over here too. Like it was pretty stormy over here. I remember going for a walk and I felt like I was going to be blown away.
Mm-hmm.
So, but wow, I'm happy you
Mm-hmm.
guys. Happy you guys got through that.
Oh yeah, I am very happy. I guess I'm happy we got through that. It's like we figured this is it. Let's do it.
Yeah,
Kind of
the
like.
John and old man were waiting
Mm-hmm.
patiently. I was like, hey, the stream was canceled
Mm-hmm.
last week, so.
Oh yeah, the old man called. He was harassing me, going, "Oh, I'm not having any problems at my place." It's like I got brownouts. I'm not on the same grid as you are.
Yeah.
We have on our side here. Well, we had a tree that just went down over a couple of houses down. I mean, just went
Oh
down.
wow.
They're cutting the thing up in the middle of the storm. I mean, lightning and everything's, and they had the teams out there and they're chopping it all up with the tree. Thankfully, it wasn't my tree. And
That's how it
let's see.
caused the brownout, was it? The tree
I,
being.
well, I think what it is we have a construction going on over there. They have 55 and older housing. They've been taking the power lines down and doing underground. So they're in the middle of doing electrical thing changes. And we've always seemed to get brownouts up in this area for some reason. I'll come home and the clocks start flashing at me on the stove. And it's like, oh, great, just what we needed. A little brownout. Now I got to change the time. I wait for a while. Then when I finally do change the time, guess what happens?
What?
Brownout.
Brownout. So you gotta change it again. Yep, I've done
Yep.
that.
I gave up. I'm not doing my I'm not doing my oven anymore. I do it get the brown out. Everything else I got on time. So oh well, that's the exciting life that we have going on over here. What can I say? So the Admiral, the man of
Admiral.
the Avatar power. Of course, you have had some great streams detailing the Star Wars trilogy, uh, Shadows of the Empire, various other Star Trek stuff. But one I did back down on that you offered was, of course, Aliens, because I just had to be 100% honest. There wasn't anything really I could contribute to that one. I just don't want to sit in your chat going.
Yeah, that's understandable.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of
But
it's one of the early, like I said in my stream, it's one of the between Star Wars, Star Trek, and Alien. Those were the three cornerstones that really bumped up my interest in science fiction.
mm-hmm.
But I think this was I think in sixth grade, roughly sixth grade for me. So this was this was mid to late '90s.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, that way. Okay.
So like the Alien stuff, my dad had the original. He bought an old VHS of Alien from 1979.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the tape, and in my video, the review I actually did on it, I included anything like part of my reviews that I do are also retrospectives. So I kind
Mm-hmm.
of talk about how I discovered it. And a lot
Mm-hmm.
of the stuff I discovered was because my dad used to buy like a whole bunch of VHSs. Like my dad would buy movies left and right to the annoyance of my mother because my mother thought it was a waste of money.
Mm-hmm.
And she still does. She sees my Blu-ray shelf right here, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
why are you buying all that? I'm like, well, now it's important to buy all that because with streaming, you don't know what's not going to be included. Like apparently, I'm sure you've heard, but there's a DS9 episode missing from season 1 on Paramount Plus, the episode Duet, which is probably the best episode of that season. the one with
I did not know that.
the one with Harris Yellen playing Goldar Heel. And he goes to the
Mm-hmm.
station, and everyone's like, "He's a murderer. He's a butcher," and it was that type of episode. I remember, I know Babylon 5 had an equivalent episode with another
Mm-hmm.
warlord that came on the station. Everyone's like, "It's him. Let's get him. Let's kill him. He murdered our
Mm-hmm.
families." Stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, that those type of story, that's one of many type of stories that are really compelling. That's why I love, Trek and Babylon 5 and science fiction in general. They told stories that were, in my opinion, bipartisan. Like,
Mm-hmm.
people on both sides of the political aisle like those shows.
Right.
Despite, I looked at a tweet today. Someone, I mean, I don't know what side of the political aisle you are. I consider myself a moderate.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I'm sure you're aware of this news called Fox News. Well,
Yeah.
they've been taking like the woke. They've been calling things woke lately. They've been taking that stand, and also the
Mm-hmm.
stand of being against mainstream media.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they started talking about the new Star Trek shows as woke, and a
Mm-hmm.
certain writer of DS9, who I recently communicated with, believe it or not, what was his name? Robert Hewitt Wolf,
Oh
called
yeah.
them
Mm-hmm.
morons. It was always woke and stuff. But then again, you have to remember, the Star Trek writers of yesteryear, even though they
Mm-hmm.
wrote compelling stories. I mean, if they came back and wrote for Star Trek, I think they would basically embrace what New Trek is doing. To be perfectly blunt, I
Well, some
mean,
have been. Yeah.
if you've seen the what you've left behind documentary, the DS9 fund crowdfunded documentary, it was
Mm-hmm.
completely that word that rhymes with broke.
Mm-hmm.
And because all they talked about of Garrick, now Garrick is a multifaceted character. I just meet my
Mm-hmm.
friend Gary, and I did a Trekporial stream talking about the 5 best Garrick episodes. Because
Mm-hmm.
in my opinion, Garrick is, I mean, you guys can disagree, but Garrick is the best character, or is my favorite character in DS9. Any episode he's in, he elevates.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing they talked about him, and I met Andrew Robinson at the
Mm-hmm.
Las Vegas science fiction convention last August.
Okay. Great.
They had meetups and stuff for all
Mm-hmm.
the all the different YouTube channels. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I met him. He was pretty. He was a pretty upstanding guy. He was probably the one actor I really enjoyed, talking to. And I got not only a picture taken with, but I got 2 autographs with him just based on his attitude alone.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to the documentary, the only thing that they talked about Garrick was that he was gay, and that was the only thing that they talked about. Oh, he was gay. He was gay. He was gay. I'm like, well, okay, he was. I did not know. I did not see that. To be
Mm-hmm.
perfectly, I mean, there were hints in the very first episode he appeared in, past prologue, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know this. And I was like, well, why is that important?
Right.
Why is that important? He's an alien character. Who knows what alien uh, foibles they have? If they like the same sex, they like the same sex. I mean, look at Bortus and the Orville.
Mm-hmm.
I'm fine with
Yeah.
that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I don't know. Like, there was more to him than just that. Like, there was a
Well,
lot to him. Like, he didn't have a happy childhood. He always spoke in riddles.
mhm. And
So
that's just it. I mean, I didn't even think of anything with sexuality with the man or with the
no, same
character.
here.
It's like one way or the other. It's the fact that this is a duplicitous, sneaky person. I'm not saying, and he, you never know where you are. He drops little hints, and it's like, I'm just this humble tailor, but yeah, it's right out of the old spy stories out of the 40s and the 50s and such. And you know the man is dangerous too, and that's the thing. He brought all that all together in that character that
He
made it
brought a
so
lot of
believable.
intrigue. He brought a lot of
Mm-hmm.
intrigue to the table. And
Mm-hmm.
like, just because Robert Hewitt Wolf, I recently, he's doing a Q&A on Twitter. I asked
Mm-hmm.
him a question because me and my friend and I did Trek Boreal. We were talking, both our number 2 was the episode The Wire. That was the one where we find out that there's this organization called the Obsidian Order exists,
Mm-hmm.
And Gary, we find out Garrick has this little thing in his brain that's acts as a wire for his father, or before we find out that's his father, the head of the previous head of the order, in
Mm-hmm.
Auburn. And we also learn that the same device is something that keeps him from suffering. So he's addicted to it. It stimulates the
Mm-hmm.
pleasure centers of his brain, and he had it on repeatedly for 2 years. So he's addicted to it, and so when they have to turn it off, he's in extreme pain. But then we also find out that he's missing, because of what the machine did. He's missing like particular leukocytes that Dr. Bashir cannot replicate. So that's why Dr. Bashir has to go all the way to um, somewhere. I don't know if it was Cardassia, but wherever Inabrantane lives, and
Mm-hmm.
get the leukocytes. And then of course Inabrantane tells him, hey, I hope Garrick lives a very unsettled, a very unhappy life on the station, and tells us that Elam, the character that Garrick says betrayed him and made him
Mm-hmm.
an exile, was actually him. And Robert Hugh Wolf answered one of my questions. I was like, what does Elam mean to Garrick? And he said that's his idealized version of himself that in his mind. So I thought that was so. This was the stuff that I was just thinking about. That's why I kind of brought up Garrick and
Mm-hmm.
Robert Hugh Wolf, because Robert Hugh Wolf actually responded to my tweet, and of
Don't you
course
love it when they
he's
do that?
yeah. I mean, I decided. I mean, he to my annoyance he answered some other jerks questions, saying, why do other Trek fans not like this stuff? There's other Trek fans who are they're so toxic and they don't like this stuff. And he's like, I don't know, they're just they don't understand. I'm thinking, no, I don't think you understand.
No, then that's just it. It's not being toxic. The toxic being toxic is the other way, because they made it known even in the beginning with Discovery, where they're saying, "Well, if we don't like what we're doing, we don't want you,"
Yeah,
and that's completely against what Roddenberry, Kuhn, Fontana,
yeah.
even Berman and Piller and those guys were all about. It's like, no, no, come on in. Let's have a discussion
And they
through
hide
storytelling.
behind and they hide behind infinite diversity and infinite combinations, which is the idic, which is the famous idic necklace that Spock wears in the
Hmm.
episode, and the not in the Is There in Truth No Beauty, the episode with
Right.
Diana Muldaur playing a blind Dr. Miranda Jones, and um, she's supposed to be escorting this very hideously ugly ambassador who's just basically a bunch of lights. I'll call them Kubrick
Hmm.
lights, because anytime anyone looks directly into it, they go insane. Heck, even
Hmm.
with Spock and his intellect, could not
Right.
ha- handle it without those red shades that they had. So
Right.
they hide behind that, but it's just if you can't follow that. And I made I this is on the Trek, this is Star Trek on Paramount Plus's Twitter page.
Hmm.
This is their tagged tweet, and they had that post up about IDIC, and talk about, we will not tolerate this and that and this and that harassment. Yeah, sure. I mean, nobody wants to be harassed. Harassment is
Right.
never acceptable. I agree with that. um, and all the other ists and stuff. I agree with that too. But it
Hmm.
comes from a place of disingenuity. Like, just because, and they say hate speech. I mean, okay, how do you define hate speech? That's the big
Hmm.
thing. Just
Right.
because
I
someone
mean,
disagrees with you doesn't make it hate speech. Just because someone
mhm,
disagrees with you doesn't make you an ist or an ism or a phobe or
right.
something. So, I mean, there's a lot more to it. But these people, I don't think, have brains big enough to, food for thought. Hence
Well,
why
and
they
that.
let New Trek pass, like they think New Trek is good, and it passes over their heads
Hmm.
like flying
Well,
colors.
they don't even understand what ethic is. It means you have to look at somebody else that makes you uncomfortable, and because they make you uncomfortable, it doesn't mean that they're a horrible person or they're a ist or a phobe
Yeah,
or any of that stuff. It means they have a different viewpoint, and if you cannot, and all you can do is scream toxic because you can't handle another viewpoint, then you're the one that's actually toxic. You're the one that has the problem. It's time for you to pull up your man panties or woman panties and go out there and face reality. That there are
yeah,
people that don't think like you do, are actually uh, they have different approaches. Let's just put it that way: different approaches.
Yeah.
Overall, human beings want to have a good life. It's just they have different approaches to get there.
I'll be honest. Some of the, I mean, some of the things I read. This is my problem. Once I joined Twitter just for the sake of promoting my channel and
Hmm.
having more of an online, social media presence. I've been reading because I said I'm interested in Star Trek. I get all
Hmm.
these Star Trek tweets no matter what I do. So every time I go
Hmm.
home, I see some every day I see a cringy tweet from somebody saying, "Oh, this is I love the fact that there's so much love. Stranger New Worlds is getting so much love." I'm like, I wanted to say, well, I'd rather be happy if I'd rather be happy with better content than whether the community thinks it's good or
Hmm.
positive. I mean,
Well, yeah.
it's nice that people like it, and I'm glad the community is happy about it, but it doesn't make me happy.
Mm-mm.
Maybe I got that streak of barbarism that Kirk says in Space Seed. By the same reason why we can we can respect Khan despite the fact that he's a ruthless tyrant.
Hmm.
Same
Right.
idea, but I mean the thing I want the most is I want to see Star Trek return to its true form,
Hmm.
and because of shows like the Orville, it's easy for me to do what Guinan tells Riker
Hmm.
in Best of Both Worlds. I mean I want to make a meme of this, um, but I say I view Star Trek as beyond friendship, beyond family, and I will let
Hmm.
it go. Well, not the old
Hmm.
stuff. I'll still watch it, but
No.
yeah, the
Hmm.
new stuff I will let it go. I mean, and I feel the same with a lot of franchises. It's just a lot of them are just they're being handled now by new people that don't appreciate
Hmm.
what made them good or special in the first place. And it's heartbreaking, but as an adult, it's something that adults we have to learn to put aside. We have to learn to put aside
Hmm.
certain things. It's part of growing up is letting certain things go. I know it's
Right.
not easy. I know a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people have a hard time with this, but it's something that happens. It's part of. It's like as Captain Picard says, it's life.
Hmm. And I have let it all go. I mean, I've let all the new stuff go. It doesn't mean I'm black pilled at all because I still love the
No,
old stuff. I'll just glom onto those old stuff, relive the stories, the books that we have,
yeah,
all the history that leads up to up to 2005, when basically it came to an end and the children took over. And how many of these people actually sat back and even watched an episode of Star Trek, and then they dare turn around and tell us about what Star Trek is about? It's like,
yeah.
no, 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 back off a little bit there, kiddo.
Mm-hmm.
And when they say that, oh, you just outgrew Star Trek. No, no, on the contrary. Every time you see an old show, you go through different phases of life, and that
Yeah,
the original Trek, the Next Generation, DS9. As you get older, you start seeing new things and things that now you saw it again. It's like, oh, now I'm seeing it coming from another aspect that you can keep on coming back and getting something new instead of just having the flash in the pan episode of glitz, gore, and
yeah.
male shaming and all that other virtual signaling that they have going on. Star Trek wasn't virtual signaling. It wasn't SJW. It was going out there and making people have compelling thought, just like the old Twilight Zone.
It was allegorical, yeah, like Twilight
Hmm.
Zone. Like
Hmm.
I don't know if the Outer Limits did the same thing, but it was allegorical. Roddenberry wanted to tell stories. I know you know this, but Roddenberry reason why Star
Hmm.
Trek came about was because Roddenberry really wanted to tell these stories that studios or studio executives just didn't want to hear. So he had
Hmm.
to he had to veil them in science fiction storytelling. And people are I like how everybody says, oh, like there's this argument on Twitter that old Trek was not political compared to new Trek, and of course the answers that new Trek fans give is the first thing is they show the picture of Lokai and Beale from Let That Be Your Last Battlefield.
Right.
um if you watch that episode, you would, I mean, they're I don't even think they ever said the word racism in the episode. I have to
No.
rewatch it, but I'm not sure they ever said the word racism. It was heavily
No.
implied though.
Hmm.
So even that was told in an allegorical way. So
And
that
there's
would not be, that would be to me, that's a false equivalence.
very false, especially the fact that that was one of the few times where they did kind of over overplay the hand. I
Yeah.
mean, that was about the one of the few times where they actually weren't. They're more in your face about it than most of the other episodes they had. So if you
Yeah.
take like one or two episodes of the original Trek out of 79 episodes,
Yeah.
and that's what you have to pick on compared to every single episode that you have, there's a
Hmm.
big difference. It's a
Yeah.
huge difference.
Absolutely.
And and even Next Generation, they had a few times when they kind of overstepped bound a little bit in those areas, but I mean, as it goes, is still with allegorical stories and making you think. Have you come back? I mean, I don't know if you caught yesterday's show on the Tuesday Night Trek, and of course, talking about Suddenly Human, Brothers, and Remember Me, and just going through those episodes where they're dealing with the interplay with the characters, and of course, the week before that we had Family,
Oh yeah.
that writing, that writing right there, they can't replicate. They don't know how to
They can't
because they're.
replicate. You can't replicate it, and I'm sure you. I'm sure you also know this. The head writer of TNG was Michael Pillar, and
Yep.
Michael Pillar did not let anything get past him unless he saw it as nothing less than, perfect. Well, I wouldn't say perfect, but
Hmm.
acceptable as a script.
Right.
What I think, and this is just my opinion, what I think is going on with, like, these shows, Kurtzman, Kiva Goldsman, Jenny Lumet, whoever's running. I don't know who runs Discovery. I don't know who the showrunner of Discovery is, but they just let these scripts just get past them. They make the episodes, and they end up being they end up being subpar. So they don't know how to check scripts, or they don't know how to
Right.
check the story elements of scripts. They try to sound uh, they try to sound smart when they're not.
Right. Yeah. It's yeah.
Like I couldn't even get what they were talking about. Like I had to rewind several times, episodes 1 and 2 of Stranger Worlds, just to
Mhm,
understand what they were talking about, what they were getting at.
mhm. And one of the telling things too is Jason Isaacs when he was playing in Discovery there, he took one of the
Captain
lines and he went,
Lorca.
yeah,
I
he went.
actually liked his character, so I couldn't
Mhm,
believe. I thought, honestly, this was when I was still thinking, Discovery was still going to have, um, Discovery was going to be serial based like Deep Space Nine was. So
mhm,
I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't out yet.
mhm,
I thought it was a very interesting twist that Lorca was actually mirror Lorca. So I was
mhm,
curious if we would ever see regular Lorca again. But then,
mhm.
reason why I kind of gave up on New Trek after a couple of seasons is because none of the seasons ever correlate to each other. I mean,
Right.
Picard seasons 1 and 2 have no relation to each other. It's like they're
Mhm,
completely divorced of each other. So what's the point of watching these serialized stories if they're divorced from each other? Same with
sure.
Discovery.
Mhm. Yeah, Jason Isaac was saying he took one of the lines and he just said, and he said, "Good Lord," and they stopped him and said, "No, you can't say that." He goes, "Why?" Well, because we're an atheistic society, we don't say words like that. It's like throughout all of it doesn't matter if it's an atheistic society or you don't believe in a higher power.
Yeah.
Even throughout all of Star Trek, they invoked. How many times did Bones invoke something like that? Even in
What the
Star Trek
devil?
Two,
He says, what the devil?
yeah. And
We
of
have
course,
no devil, Kirk, but we understand the habits of yours. That's
mhm.
Kang from Day of the Dove.
Day of the Dove, great episode, great one of the great third season episodes. And the thing is just because you don't believe, I mean, how many people sit back and go, "By Jove"? Well, you're calling up a god that doesn't exist. That's you're talking about the old Roman Greek god there, Jove. But we have them all in our days.
Mm-hmm.
Gods and the names and in our months and all that. It's like
Yeah.
just because you're a quote unquote doesn't mean that you don't invoke certain things. It's not
Yeah.
saying that he is going out there and prophetizing. And the fact that narrow minded, even Arthur C. Scott, or not, Arthur C. Clarke, when he did 3001, the book, they, instead of saying my God, they said my Deus. But it's still the same invocation. It's still the
3001 or
same.
2001? Because I know 3001 was
3001.
okay. So
The
the one with
Final Odyssey,
Doctor,
the book.
so the one
Yeah,
with Doctor Poole comes back to life or gets
that's correct.
revived.
Yeah.
Okay,
Hmm.
I've not
Yeah,
read
the
it,
last
but
book.
I know that happens.
Yeah. So I mean, just the fact that you have no concept of even language or how people react, and you don't know how to write.
Yeah.
You don't know how to to invoke the fact that what real humans talk about or how they talk. And if you're too busy trying to do the sanitizing, well, then you're not doing a good job. You're not being realistic. And unfortunately, Jason Isaac was the one that sat back and said that if you don't like what we're doing, don't watch. And that was so sad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, it's this attitude that it's this entitled attitude that they have
Right.
towards. It's like they want. It's like, and I mean, other channels have spouted this, way before I've even began my channel. But it's like they want to pick and choose their fans. It's like they only
Hmm.
care about it. So they've already Hollywood has already dismissed a certain side of the political aisle
Hmm.
as a this and a that.
Hmm.
And I mean, here's the thing, and I've said this on my streams. People on both sides liked TNG and the
Hmm.
original series and the original
Right.
movies. I
Right.
mean, I knew people at church. I used to go to church when I was a kid, Orthodox
Hmm.
church. Of course, that church was all conservative. They're all Republicans,
Hmm.
and they love a lot of them still love Star Trek. And I mean, there's people in this community who are are very conservative and
Right.
very this and that, and and a lot of them love the old classic Star Trek because
Hmm.
it touched people on it touched people on a human level,
Right.
and it came off as more genuine, even though with
Hmm.
all the techno babble, it looked like you were watching people at their best doing work in outer
Hmm.
space and
Right.
building relationships.
Hmm.
Whereas the new stuff in Red Letter Media in their recent episode 10 review put it, and it was something that I took away from that, is they write their dialogue, their language as like is like a romantic melodrama, and
Right.
it's just cringe.
But yeah, it's word salad, and just like you said, and unfortunately, that's gone on to the Star Wars franchise, Doctor Who franchise. I mean, they basically put the stake in the heart for all those. I mean, with for Doctor Who, for me, I've always sat back and was I was never really a big fan of the new revival. I liked the first season of the new revival with Christopher Eccleston, but I kind of dropped off. I just couldn't really keep up, and yeah, and there was that wokeness that they're putting into that show, even back in that time. And it's like, well, first of all, the cardinal rule is no hanky panky in the TARDIS. There's innocence. There's an innocence to Doctor Who, and that innocence has to remain in the show. There's nothing wrong with it because it's its own universe. This isn't in another one. You don't need to have Rose and Mikey talking about getting a hotel room so they can bang in the first episode of the new Doctor Who show. You don't need people going around banging in the TARDIS and conceiving children in the TARDIS and having their little romantic soap opera and turning it from space opera to soap opera. This is about a man who's crusading through space, righting wrongs whether he intends to or not, and it's innocent.
Yeah,
And it needs to get back to that innocent root, and it still had, it's obviously it had its storytelling and warnings. Obviously the Daleks with the hatred, nuclear war, um, all the way across the board for the different one. Cybermen, are we becoming too? Are we separating ourselves too much from humanity? Of course, the Green Death, which was of course a heavily environmental episode with John Pertwee era. Uh, on and on. I mean, even the Sunmakers was Robert Holmes' attack on the tax system that the Brits had. Uh,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, so
I mean, freaking George Harrison wrote a Beatles song about the about the tax man, and a great album.
exactly.
But I could figure the English tax system is ridiculous.
It is. That's why you have the tax shelters. So many of them go to one of the islands in the Caribbean or in France, and
Yeah,
there's like an island that's just off of France too. That's the tax shelter that they like to hang out with. And
I
but
actually own one of the. I actually own one season of Doctor Who. Now I've watched it with a friend of mine. I'm not the biggest Doctor Who fan, but I did get a big kick out of the Pertwee and Roger Delgado Master
oh,
episode. So that's all season 8. Every arc in
mhm,
season 8 is features Roger Delgado's Master, and
Yes.
it's one of the funniest things because Masters, all the stories of the Master has this evil diabolical plan. He's got the mustache. He's got the
Hmm.
well, he can't twirl his mustache, but he's got the evil guy with the mustache, and he has these diabolical schemes, and they always backfire, and he always ends up having to work with the Third Doctor in order to get to resolve the thing that he started. And of course, he always escapes because he's the bad guy. He's got to escape.
Yep.
Just like
Exactly.
like. So I feel that the Master was a great addition to
It.
um, to Doctor Who, and it's hard for me to get into Doctor Who because I mean I watched the first arc, the was it the Unearthly Child,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
yeah. The old black one.
I saw that one, but then I tried watching the other ones. I couldn't get into them, and there's a lot of incomplete arcs because the BBC and all of its wisdom decides, oh,
Yeah.
we can reuse some of our tapes, so let's just erase episodes that we broadcasted and put other stuff on before the
Hmm.
idea of before the idea of preserving happens. So
Right. And
I go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, and they've been finding episodes. Thank goodness. I mean that list of episodes has shrunk greatly.
I've heard like they found episodes in like Africa. Like they found the like you the least likely places to find episodes is where they've been finding episodes.
Hmm.
I know they animated some arcs too. So they have
Yep.
all the audio. All the audio has been preserved, but
Hmm.
not obviously like like any like I've had clips of I've had episodes where there was audio, but there were just like pictures. There
Right.
were it was a clip show instead of instead of a moving
Hmm.
picture. So
Right. Because they have nothing left. And you know what? We have to thank those audios for fans. Two of them
yeah,
particularly.
fans, people that
Yeah.
are passionate.
Yeah. They recorded every episode when it was airing back then, and we have them to thank for all those tapes to keep that they can do this stuff with. So, thank God to them. I mean, honestly. And I just want to sit back and say, of course, Sherry Anderson's in the house. I see here a troublemaker that we all kind of know by the name of Pacific 414. Um,
Who?
yeah, I know. There he is. Uh, we also have low spec Linux laptop. So there we go. We got some great people in the chat there, and they're doing a nice job talking in there. Padawannabe. There you go. Yep, there he is on there. So yeah, and he gave the new show, and it's let go. You just can't. They only like Lower Decks. Yeah. Oh, and I. It's not the fact that you want them to completely remake the shows the way they were because they have to grow, as they go along.
Yeah, they got to
But the
reinvent
top
themselves.
Right.
Doc,
And the thing is the topics that they talk about, no matter what, unfortunately, are eternal with us. I mean, wherever you go in the world, there's still bad things happening. There's still slavery in the world. There's still immense racism in the world. I'm not talking about the United States. They have that huge caste system that they have in India. The darker
yeah,
you are, the less less you're considered. And there's even a whole segment in India that are so uh, down put upon that they don't even want to touch them or be even seen around them, kind of like Samaritans. Uh, and to sit back and put the mirror and say about how horrible the United States is and all this stuff is like, well, take a look at the world out there. Take a look at what because even Star Trek was not just looking at the United States; they were looking at the world
yeah,
stuff that was on the page. It was not just here on our own back doors. It was halfway around the world where they hear where they hear stories or heard something. It's like, well, we got let's do something about this. Let's have a story around. What's this going to be about? And
yeah,
even sure, so
yeah.
and
That's
the
what
thing.
Roddenberry always asked of his writers. He was like, "What
Hmm.
is this episode about?"
Hmm.
And then of
Right.
course Michael Pill's like, "Oh, it's going to be like this and this," but he's like, "No, but what is it about? What are we trying to tell the audience?"
Hmm.
And then of course that's and that's that's the magic of, in my opinion, that's the magic of Star Trek. Now I don't
Right.
think Roddenberry is the best writer, but it was his
Hmm.
vision. It was his idea to bring these type of stories into the forefront. So
Right.
no matter what anybody says, I mean, Roddenberry, was he the greatest guy? No, I mean, he cheated on his wife. He cheated on his wife with Majel Barrett. You know, he had 2 daughters prior to marrying Majel Barrett right after the show got canceled, and he had a son. He had a
Mm-hmm.
son, Rod.
Mm-hmm.
I saw Rod at the convention. Freaking Rod, I can't stand him.
Oh, he
Rod
just didn't like him,
Roddenberry.
huh?
Well, I
Oh.
never met him, but what
Mm-hmm.
he's allowing Trek to become is just
Oh
like
yeah.
it just comes off as a freaking.
Yeah, I mean, I know the one thing he said, the Star Trek continues that was done by Vic. He said that last episodes that he did, those 2 last episodes, he did say that if this should be official Star Trek. He thought that was so good
Oh,
that
he
they,
did.
yeah, for the Star Trek continues, yeah.
Okay.
And I know James Cawley didn't like that, with Star Trek Phase 2. He didn't like hearing that, so he was
Uh,
kind of upset
I
about it.
tried watching. I tried watching the other shows, the other fan shows. I mean, they're
Hmm.
fine, but I think Vic nailed it. Like I like his
Hmm.
stuff. Like Vic's stuff, in my opinion, is better than most of TOS. It's up there with the
Hmm.
best of TOS. Just the way it's
Yeah.
written, and you can tell. And I've said this on many times that there was a lot of love that went into that production. It was
Hmm.
not for profit. I heard and
Right.
I've listened to a lot of Vic's interviews, and it's a shame that some of the people that he worked with on continues kind of threw him under the bus,
Yeah.
saying, "Oh, we don't support bad behavior." And
Hmm.
this one of them was Larry Nemesic, who wrote the TNG. Was it the TNG technical manual?
Okay.
Larry Nemesic. He played Bones in the first. He played a fat McCoy in the first 2 episodes. Then Chuck
Hmm.
Hubert took over. And James Kerwin, one of the co-writers. So Vic, and James Kerwin were the ones that wrote the episodes, or
Hmm.
came up with the stories for each of the episodes. I don't know if they actually wrote the screenplays,
Hmm.
um, but Kerwin also, James Kerwin, were the 2 that I recognized, and a bunch of other people that signed this letter, petition, or whatever on Twitter. I
Hmm.
don't even know who they are. Who they are? Don't care. Don't care. No, they're not
Hmm.
important. They're not important enough.
And good night,
Good night.
Sherry.
Good
Take
night. Live
care.
long and prosper.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and all it is because someone's been making accusations. No proof, no nothing. And
Yeah,
that's the sad
I mean
thing.
it's a serious thing. I mean you're gonna accuse somebody of something that serious. I
Hmm.
mean, you don't expect people to just believe you. I mean, this is a man's life. I mean, and basically the what was it, Rooster Teeth and Funimation, the
Hmm.
companies that he work with, because he does his main job is anime dubbing and
Yeah.
was it ADR directing or something, and yeah, they just completely threw him under the bus, and they fired him, and they wanted to, and all the conventions wanted to keep him away, so they
Yeah.
completely took away his means of living.
Right. Just an accusation. No proof, no nothing. Just because somebody said something. And that's just not right. Doesn't matter who the person is.
And then it began with, and then of course then there was division amongst anime fans. There's like the hashtag kick Vic crowd,
Hmm.
that with people that think he was bad. So if you go to like Anime News Network and all these all these websites, I mean I went to Anime News Network to look up anime shows that I've not seen a long time ago,
Hmm.
back in the 2000s.
Hmm.
um, and I would get news from them. But they started bringing up the whole Vic Mignogna stuff, and they were super duper biased against him. And all the people that were saying, that were speaking in the comments about these articles, were toxic and coming and jumping the gun, in my opinion.
Right.
And
And that's
heck,
that's the toxic. Yeah.
yeah, and heck, I'm gonna quote something from scripture, which was also a DS9 episode. Like he was without sin. Dot dot dot.
Right.
Same
Exactly.
idea.
Hmm. Oh
So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, and
I mean
that's
this is a, I mean, people like that, big red flag. That's why. I mean, if I'll give people benefit of the doubt, but there's a lot of people like that who just like judge and will not
hmm.
listen, will not have a conversation with you. Those are the people to avoid.
Hmm. I
And
mean,
then
take a look at it. Oh, sorry.
no, go
Go
ahead.
ahead.
Sorry.
I was just going to say, I mean, look at Vic. Vic is a self-proclaimed conservative Christian, and
Yeah.
he went out there and was giving us Roddenberry level Star Trek.
Yes.
Roddenberry level Star Trek. as he sat back and said, we have everybody of all ilks working on the show. Faith, non-faith, political belief. It doesn't matter. We're here to make a good show. And I can't help but feel maybe that's one of the reasons why they're going after Vic, because he's so outspoken in that area also.
Oh yeah, I definitely think that. I mean, there's this huge bias now against people of a particular complexion and people of a particular faith.
Mhm.
And the thing is, people don't seem to realize that that I'm gonna be honest, Christian faith is not the only faith in the world.
Mhm.
Has the Christian faith failed people at times? Well, not the faith itself, but the people who
Mhm.
who uh, who represented it, the people who claim to represent God. Some of those popes,
Mhm.
a lot of those popes in the back in the day were wicked. The things
Oh
that the
yeah.
church did, murdering all the Knights Templars because of a difference, like because they didn't believe in the Holy Trinity. I mean, that's still murder. I mean,
Mhm.
there's a lot of skeletons in the church's closet. I mean,
Mhm.
and but a lot of the teachings, majority of the teachings of especially the New Testament, I'm mostly behind. I'm
Right.
mostly behind. It teaches you to love one another. That's the most
Right.
important thing, most important commandment.
Right. And the thing is, like you said, there are people out there with so many different faiths also. And some of the attitudes that they're going out there, especially with the new Trek, is a slap and an insult in the face to them. How are they intending to get people that they claim they want when you're insulting those that you claim you want?
They apparently they don't. They said we don't want you. They don't want
Right.
people that are right of Lenin or right of the President Biden
Mao.
or
Yeah.
Mao.
Well, yeah, I know. But when someone who's a moderate is considered a radical alt right, it's like, wait a moment.
Yeah, because they
Whoa,
question you.
whoa.
Yeah,
Yeah. And that's exactly it. Star Trek was all about questions.
yeah. You ask, yeah, because the episodes didn't always give you an answer, or it didn't give you an answer or it didn't equate to something that you wanted to see. Outcast
Right.
was a perfect example of that. TNG. We wanted
Hmm.
to see her. I think she was binary or something,
Hmm.
non-binary, whatever. Um,
Yeah.
she could not escape from the clutches of her society. She ended up becoming, I forget what she got, brainwashed, or she got, I forget what they did to her,
Yeah.
but Riker couldn't save her,
Hmm.
and so it got us thinking about those type of issues.
Oh
And
yeah.
well, I mean, here's the thing, though. I mean, I guess it was a play. It was making it was criticism of something the right's been doing, especially with churches and gay conversion and stuff. I'm guessing that
Hmm.
was something that they kind of drew from, an idea that they drew from.
Hmm.
So now
Yeah.
with Trek, like they don't want, it's like they don't want people who consider themselves right wingers, because of, they say that all the stories were left wing basis. They're all left progressive and stuff. And I agree on the progressive side, but
The original Trek wasn't totally on the left. Honestly, it really wasn't, and it wasn't. I mean, I know one of like the episode where breads and circuses, and
yeah,
they had
the
that.
Romans.
Right. And they had at the end there about the sun god. They're constantly talking about the sun god. And it's like, no, no, they're not talking about the sun. They're talking about the
Son
sun.
of God. Son of God,
Right.
yeah.
Which was Gene Coon's putting in there. And he and Roddenberry had a fight over that. And
Oh
Gene
yeah.
Coon said, no, we're going to put that in. We're going to
Yeah.
put that in.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're going to be about thoughts and ideas, we're going to put that in.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
So Gene Coon. So was this before he I clearly don't know enough about Star Trek to know that his pseudonym was Lee Cronin. So
yeah.
I was he what did he write that? So he wrote that episode, Brent Circuses? I forget.
Well, I don't know if he wrote it or if he had the addition or someone did write it in there and he fought to keep it in there. I can't remember exactly off by, but that was a Gene Coon, uh, uh, basically, it's going in type of thing. It's going to be on the air. It's gonna be part of the episode. We're not
Because
editing it out.
I credit now. I haven't read the production. I haven't read the history of the productions like you have, But in my opinion, I credit Kuhn for a strong second half of season 1 of TOS.
Mm-hmm.
So it was episodes like City on the Edge of Forever,
Mm-hmm.
Space Seed, Operation Annihilate, Errand of Mercy, Devil in the
Mm-hmm.
Dark, Taste of
Right.
Armageddon, all
When
those.
things were, yeah, when things were, and I go with the approach of this is Gene Roddenberry was a great man who a visionary with the idea, setting the thing up, setting up the universe. This is how it's going to be. Being a producer, but he wasn't all hands on because obviously he had a lot of stuff on the plate. And and this is going to be a shock to many people out there. Star Trek at the time was just a TV show. No one expected this to be a phenomenon. You're going in, you're punching your clock, you're doing the day, you're hoping you can get more seasons up because you want to work, but the job comes to an end. We're going to try to find another job afterwards. And then lo and behold, what happens? It becomes the cult phenomenon that it was. But so obviously Gene would have stuff in the irons, keeping look for new jobs. Gene Kuhn was basically, if you take a look at Fontana, Kuhn, those guys and girls were the ones that were really running the ship. They were really running the show. Most of the stuff we have for Vulcans came from Fontana. If it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have the basic lore of the Vulcans.
I think she wrote
Um,
both episodes. She wrote A Mock Time and Journey to Babel, I believe.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't know about a mock time, but definitely during the Babel. I wonder if she did do a mock time. But the thing is she was the one that wrote down this is what Spock is. I mean, they had their own little sheet afterwards. This is handing out to people. This is how you write Spock, and it's off of her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the interesting thing is that she made it known in there that Spock has no siblings, and that Sarek was never married beforehand. So lo and behold, what do we get? We get Star Trek 5.
Cybok.
Cybok.
Shakari. That was
Yeah,
supposed to be.
shock.
I mean, it was supposed to be Sean Connery. What can we say? But
Yeah.
we got Lawrence. We got Lawrence Luckenbill instead. And
Yep.
Lawrence Luckenbill's performance was one of the highlights of most of the critics at the time. But other than that, the
Mm-hmm.
movie was
Oh yeah.
completely destroyed. And I'll be honest, I agree, Lord Crit is right about one thing. The way the Enterprise looks when it goes to warp, dodging that torpedo, is some of the that was like the worst effect shot ever. Because
Yes.
like you said, they didn't have ILM. They had
Right.
someone else to they couldn't afford ILM because of the budget, so they had to go with
Mm-hmm.
someone cheaper. That's what you get.
And
Oh,
ILM
poor
was
Bill.
also heavily involved with many other projects too at the time, so they weren't
Yeah,
even going to be guaranteed to have ILM.
Last Crusade.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, Last Crusade, amongst other stuff. I mean, that such what volume that work did they put out on? So let's go to a company that doesn't even know how to use. What is it? I think they did. It was an ad company basically. They did special effects for commercials. I think was what the company is that did that.
Oh no,
Yeah,
that's like the worst. That's like the worst
yeah, there
effects
we go.
we could get.
That explains a lot right there. But I have to sit back and say though, I mean, one of the bad things, Lawrence Luckenbill wasn't a big draw like Sean Connery. People go, "Who the hell is this guy?"
Yeah,
But yeah, you're
exactly.
right. He had a great performance in there, and I think that the breaking of that lore and having Cybok as a half brother like that, I actually thought I loved it. I wish it was just done in a better movie or a better environment where you had
Yeah,
the two brothers with the two different viewpoints out there. And
yeah, and we learned that Sarek was a player.
yeah,
A
well,
Vulcan
yeah, he was.
princess. Jeez,
Yeah, according to the novel, he was married to a Viking.
Viking,
Yeah,
a
yeah,
Swedish
but
Vulcan.
the Swedish Vulcan there, don't you know?
Oh
Yeah,
no, the Borg.
you
No,
have
the
to.
Borg are Swedish. The
Oh
Borg.
yeah,
The
they're the ones that are
Borg
Swedish.
sounds Swedish. Sounds Swedish.
Yeah,
I remember.
the
I remember. I was
smorgasbord.
12. I was 12 when I saw First Contact, and I remember the whole theater was laughing at that little joke from I forget her name. I forgot the character's name in First Contact. The lady.
The one that was with Cochrane.
Yeah, the one who was with Cochrane.
Yeah,
I don't even remember the actress's. I forgot the actress's name.
CCH Pounder. No, not CCH Pounder. Oh, I can't remember her name either. I'm ashamed. There we
I'll
go.
find
Give me a
out.
slap.
I'll find out.
Yeah, that's what the computer's for. Of course,
Alfre
this
Lily Sloan. She played Alfre
Lily
Woodward
Sloan.
plays Lily Sloan. That's her.
Alfie Woodward. There we go. Yes,
She
there
was
we go.
great in Luke Cage. I liked her as the
Hmm.
villain in Luke Cage. She was one of the villains in Luke Cage. I think that's the only
And
other thing I've seen her in.
she's a good actress. She really
Oh
is.
yeah, oh yeah.
Hmm.
It's too bad they. It's too bad. I loved those Netflix Marvel shows. Well, I
Hmm.
didn't care for Iron Fist so much, but like all three seasons, I loved all three seasons of Daredevil. I loved the first season of Jessica Jones. Um, I like the first season of Luke Cage. Most people say they only like the first half of the first season of Luke Cage.
Hmm.
And I loved both seasons of The Punisher. Iron Fist was the
So
only show I didn't really care for. It was a drag to get through.
okay. Now you said your trifecta that got you into all this. You said was Alien, the first one on VHS. Star Trek. What was the third one? What was your trifecta?
Star Wars?
I thought so. I just want to make sure. Definitely. Did you see the original one or?
Yeah, the remember the VHSs that came out in like '95. You know, right before
Hmm.
the special editions came out. Those were the ones that I saw and I got for Christmas. So
Hmm.
I
Yes.
saw Star Wars before when I was younger, but I barely
Hmm.
remembered the movie. So when I was 11, I watched it, paid attention to it, and just I loved it. Yeah, the original
Hmm.
trilogy. So Han did shoot first.
Yeah, he did shoot first. There's no, and that's where I had to sit back and fault good old fashioned George Lucas on that. He said he had to tone it down because it's a different era. People wouldn't understand. It's like I was 8 years old when that film came out. I understood he had to shoot first, or he would be dead.
Yeah,
And that scene is so classic. It's like right out of The Good, and the Bad, and the Ugly, where it's like if you're gonna shoot, shoot. If you're gonna talk, talk. You know, it's right. It's Tuchel in that type of scene. It's like okay, talk, 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 blast.
let me go, Blondie. Let me go. Eli Wallach
Oh,
before he played Don, whatever his name was in Godfather Part 3.
mm, the low point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I love Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. What was I gonna say? But you know what? There was a fourth movie that was kind of like okay, I'll call it a quadrifecta or whatever.
Hmm.
2001 broadcasted in 97, 96 or 97 on
Hmm.
WTTW channel 11 and
Okay.
on a Saturday night. And I saw the name of the movie. I used to read the TV guides all the time.
Hmm.
So I found out about the movie. It had a 4-star review according to TV preview, or TV Week, which came with the Chicago Tribune.
Hmm.
So it had 4 stars. So I'm guessing these were based off of Siskel and Ebert's reviews, I think,
Hmm.
or Tribune. So it'd be Gene Siskel's
Hmm.
reviews. 4 stars. So I was like, okay, I gotta watch this. It's 2001: Space Odyssey. So I put it on. We see space. I hear this very familiar theme. It was on every commercial in the '90s, and they still play this theme, the Thus Sprach Zarathustra by Richard
Hmm.
Strauss.
Hmm.
Um, and they still play it to this day in every commercial because I mean, I guess when it comes to having a grandiose introduction, you play that piece, the first part of that
Hmm.
piece.
That Bob.
So I saw that. Then all of a sudden, the Dawn of Man. I'm like, the Dawn of Man, the Dawn of Man. This is a space odyssey movie. Why are we in the dawn of man? And
Hmm.
I see apes. I thought they were at the time. I thought they were real apes. I see apes moving, and then there's like a cheetah or a leopard that attacks one of them. Has the glowy eyes, to
Hmm.
make it look menacing. And of course, there's another channel that compares the glowy eyes of the leopard to the glowy eyes of the pod when this pod attacks and kills Frank Poole, Dr. Poole.
Okay.
Same idea. Um, but the Dawn of Man, and then all of a sudden there's this like rectangular thing that just pops up and they're freaking out, and I didn't realize what they were freaking out about. I'm like, why are they freaking out? What is this creepy music? But the creepy music is what kind of drew me to the movie because it came off as a
Hmm.
bit of a horror movie. It was unsettling. I
Right.
don't know the sound that Stanley Kubrick went with made it sound very unsettling.
That building up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
it's like you're listening to like the souls. It's like listening to souls that are stuck in hell or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've never been to hell, so I don't know what it sounds like. So that's so I'm exaggerating there.
I have been in hell.
Hell, Michigan.
I think so. Yeah. I don't
Welcome
know.
to
Me.
hell.
There's actually a few hells out. I think it was actually Norway. HEL. Headed Norway. Yeah.
Uh huh. I'm guessing there was a lake called Devil's Lake there too. Mind
Well, we got
blowing.
the we got Devil's Lake not too far from us in North Dakota.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But going back to 2001, like I had no idea what was going on. Then all of a sudden, the ape just picks up a bone and beats. It just starts beating up. It just starts smacking it against other skulls and bones and stuff, and then beats up one of the other apes over a puddle, and then
Mm-hmm.
throws the bone up in the air. You see the bone twirl, and then it cuts to a satellite. Cuts to a nuclear satellite, and then we're in
Mm-hmm.
space. Oh, finally we're in space, and
Mm-hmm.
then it's another 10 minutes before we see before we hear 10 to 15 minutes before we hear any dialogue. I was like, what is this? Now I'm hearing music from the Three Stooges now. Dun, 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 dun. Blue Danube, Johann Strauss this time. But
Mm-hmm.
that's where I first heard it was on the Three Stooges, believe it or not. Believe it or not.
Yep. It's
I don't
amazing
know.
where you hear the classical music first on something
Yeah.
like that. It's like, oh, I recognize that, and all
Yeah.
the classical people music
Mm-hmm.
go
Like
like
I never
this.
knew Three Blind Mice was the main Stooges theme or
Oh.
the Stooges theme in the 40s. So I like that's three blind mice. Yeah, it is Three Blind Mice.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so so Blue Danube is playing and we're seeing a pen float. I'm like, okay, what's going on? Okay, well, they're in space now, and it's going like I started falling asleep. And then they get into the station and we finally hear some dialogue, but I can barely hear what they're saying. The broadcast, I could barely hear the volume of what they're saying. So I had no idea what they were talking about. And then they go to the moon, and then they're on the moon, and then you hear the music again, that
Mm-hmm.
creepy atmospheres music. I think it's called atmospheres or something. And I was
Yeah.
like, I started falling asleep. I started falling asleep, and then it was on. The movie was on like the next month, and I tried watching it again, and I got further into it. I got to the part with Hal and stuff, and that part was the part that really drew me in because there was dialogue and there was a villain. Hal was the villain. I mean, Hal was just a creepy computer, and then he became the villain because of. I didn't know why he became the villain. He just did
Mm-hmm.
until I read the book, and it was like because he was supposed to keep the thing secret, but he had to lie in order to do it, and it kind of scrambled his circuits, and hence he
Mm-hmm.
killed
He
everybody.
went bonkers. He thought he
Yeah,
was doing his programming.
exactly. And then but the creepiest part of the movie was you just see the pictures and you hear the beeps and then you hear the alarms going off and he's cutting away the life support from the three men who are in
Mm-hmm.
cryo. I think it's cryostasis. Yeah, it's cryostasis.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
there was no music. You just hear beeping and alarms, and it was one of the creepiest parts of the movie. And
Yeah.
then another thing that really I found compelling was the fact that Dr. Bowman, Keir Delea's character, is alone now. He's alone in the middle of space. He's millions of miles away from Earth, years away, and he's completely alone. Like you can't just call somebody up on the phone or on the communicator like in Star Trek and get an answer. You have to send a transmission and wait probably. I forget how long they had to wait for a transmission to come back, like a couple weeks
No, it
or
was actually
something.
like a couple hours, like 8 hours or so.
Oh, okay.
I think if they're doing that, when they said they were doing the interview, they said it took 8 hours for going back and forth or whatever. But we chopped everything down, and then
Yeah.
yeah,
And then just
and
that whole thing where he has to blow himself out of the air out of the it's blow himself into the airlock to get back onto the ship was
mm-hmm,
really ridiculous. And I was like, why is this quiet? And then years later I learned about the nature of a vacuum, that no sound can travel in a vacuum, hence why it was dead silent.
mm-hmm,
So I thought that was pretty cool. And of course, the computer room, the computer room where he disables Hal is so iconic. I've seen it in like other media. If you're familiar with, there's a video game series called the Metal Gear Solid games.
mm-hmm,
The creator of that series, Hideo Kojima, is a huge fan of 2001, and like the AI that he made is based on HAL. So like when he go in to disable the AI of this particular giant mech or something, the computer room looks just like the room from 2001, the red
Mm.
room with the disc coming out, and sing me a song, Daisy, Daisy, give me your and do. And you know where HAL was built? In Urbana, Illinois, a couple
Mm-hmm.
hours away from me.
Yep. And Sal too. Sal 9000, his counterpart.
Yeah, the cell was in 2010, right?
2010. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
2010 is an underrated movie. I
It
did
really
not know
is.
that existed. My friend, so I showed my friends 2001. Nobody I knew saw that movie. So I showed a couple of my good friends 2001 when I was in college. We watched it. They they barely. I had to wake them up a couple of times because they were struggling to stay awake. But when it got to the Hal part, that's when the parts got pretty interesting.
Hmm.
And a couple of weeks later, one of my friends who I showed the movie to said he found 2010 on DVD at a flea market. And I didn't know
Oh
this
wow.
movie existed. So we
Wow.
watched 2010 together for the first time. It was a really cool thing. So I love so just the idea of sharing the stuff. I shared like reason why my friends are familiar with Star Trek is because I told them about it and got them to watch it. Took me a long time to get them to watch it because people are like, "Oh, I don't like Trek. I don't like that
Hmm.
type of storytelling. I like action and in your face and your timeless epic entertainment." I'm like, Trek can
Hmm.
be that. Trek can be that too, with a
Yeah.
little bit more thought provoking ideas
Right.
and techno babble. You got to have your techno babble.
Star Trek: The Original Series wasn't as bad as Next Generation, though.
Oh
That was,
no, no.
and that's one of the faults where I sat back and said with Next Generation is like, oh, we need to have fill up so much time here. What do we do? Well, we just write up a bunch of techno babble, and then I think to Babylon 5 Third Space, the movie Third Space, and the movie was coming short, so overnight, basically, JMS writes this like 3-page soliloquy for Zach to say to Leela oh, I hate when I have middle blocks, the middle uh, Leela Alexander inside the lift. He's basically professing his love for her, and of course she's all possessed. She doesn't know it, and so he writes this overnight, gives it to uh, the Conway. He memorizes it virtually as fast as possible and did the entire scene in one take.
Wow.
And it's like that's a little bit of a difference. It's like instead of uh, having technobabble, wouldn't this be a great time to drop a poignant or somewhere else drop a poignant line about something or something impressive or something to come forward and see something? That was always my big problem with Next Generation. It's like, oh, all right, we'll just do some technobabble. It's like
Yeah.
that's lazy. That's
Hmm.
lazy. I mean, obviously, if the technobabble actually matters something,
A
but
lot of
if
the
it's just
time
to
it
fill up
doesn't.
space,
They're trying to
yeah.
they're trying to sound technical.
Mhm.
They're trying to increase that verisimilitude of
Yeah.
technicality,
Hmm.
which is I mean it's fine to me, but yeah, I would like have something that's more related to the characters and the story because the
Hmm.
technology and stuff is never not what I've drew me to Star Trek. It was always the characters. It was my investment in um, Star Trek 3 was really the movie, believe it or not, that got me invested in the original cast.
Hmm.
Hence it fortified my interest in watching the original show. So I saw the movies first, and
Hmm.
then I started owning the VHS tapes of the original series, the ones that came out at the same time as those Star Wars VHSs, the ones with the blue box with
Okay.
the Star Trek. The
Hmm.
Star Trek font was the same. The name of the Star Trek font was the same, but instead of it being yellow, it was white, but it had red. Had like a little bit, it had a red border to the
Hmm.
font. And of course, the back of the back of the tapes had like a brief summary of the episode, and then there would be fun facts and
Hmm.
stuff. So like some of the fun facts, like the panel in Return of the Archons was reused in I forget, but they talked about fun facts like that. And
Hmm.
Warren Stevens, who was in by any other name. Season 2, the one with the Kelvins. The
Mm-hmm.
Kelvins that turn people into crystal. They hijack the Enterprise. Well, he was in Forbidden Planet. And what's
Mm-hmm.
funny was that kind of went over my head. I didn't realize how, at the time, I heard of the movie Forbidden Planet from that tape, and then of
Mm-hmm.
course later watching Halloween when I was in 8th grade, 7th or 8th grade, realizing that was also Forbidden Planet. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't watch the movie until like a couple years ago when George R. R. Martin talked about it being his favorite movie, favorite science fiction movie of all time. So I watched it. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Holy crap! How have I missed this? This is practically Star Trek. This is Star Trek like borrowed so much from this. Like just." And we talked about it during my stream.
Yeah, we did. It was the proto Star Trek.
Yes, the pre-Star Trek. Yeah,
Very
I
much
totally.
so.
And I felt like I felt like I had to talk about that. So
Mm-hmm.
what's funny is my review. It's one of my more viewed reviews on my channel.
Really?
Yeah,
I think
I
it's
get
because Keith was on there.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm talking. No, I'm talking about my review, the video review I made
Oh, the video's
last
up.
year.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay.
well, yeah, I felt bad for Loki, so I brought Loki on to talk about the day the Earth stood still last week. So
Mm-hmm.
we talked about that movie because they had to bring up that movie in the very first episode of Strange New Worlds,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a big fan of that movie. I own the Blu-ray, and I felt like, oh, if they're going to do this, you know what? I want to talk about the actual movie and how
Mm-hmm.
different it is from Strange New Worlds. Because the first thing I
Right.
said, and I told Loki this, I said the reason why I did the stream with him talking about the day the Earth stood still was because for Strange New Worlds had to bring it up and make it part of the Star Trek universe. So Robert Wise is now part of the Star Trek universe. So I'm guessing, or the new Trek universe, excuse me.
New Trek. Yeah.
So I'm guessing Star Trek: The Motion Picture is a movie directed by Robert Wise in the new Trek universe. Speaking
Right.
of
That they
motion
didn't
picture,
watch.
yeah, which I did not watch, and I'm actually going to go see it, the director's cut, in the theater on
Ooh.
Sunday for the very first
Ooh.
time because I was not alive in 1979, so I didn't see the
I.
theatrical release. But I'm going to be seeing my first Star Trek movie of the original six in the theater for the first time, and I can't wait because that
Oh,
movie was
you.
meant for the cinema.
Yeah. Wait until you see that opening Klingon battle. The opening Klingon battle is. I mean, that. When I saw it in the theater back '79, it was like, whoa! It's like, and then I'm going, why are they shooting into a cloud? These guys are damn dumb.
Now, the
Let's shoot
reason
a
why the
cloud.
Klingons were there is because it was going through the Klingon neutral zone, right?
Right. It was going
Hence
through
why they
Klingon
hence why
space
they
at that.
respond hence why they responded to it because it was going through their.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, it's a cloud. You're shooting torpedoes into a cloud. How smart is that? you know.
Oh, I thought they only shot the torpedoes after V'ger or the Cloud shot its electrical orb at them, and then they shot
No,
their torpedoes, and then of course
no,
it
they
absorbed their
poked the bear.
torpedoes.
Yeah, they poked the bear, and then that's when started getting. Vidra sat back and said, "Okay, you little," and started shooting back, and took them
Yeah.
out one by one.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, we see that battle just to see it in that restored version. Oh my word, that's got going to be beautiful to see.
First time you hear the one syllable words of the Klingon language spoken by Mark Leonard himself. Wayne Duck.
And
Okay, and
which
that
oh,
not
and
quite.
which was done by which was invented by Jimmy Doohan himself.
He invented that
For the motion picture, all the Klingon dialogue was done by Jimmy Doohan, and then later
oh
on, Mark Okrand started adding stuff up as he had Star Trek 3 and such because he needed to flesh it out a little bit more.
well, Mr. Doohan's a man of many dialects and accents. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, he
Oh
did
yeah.
he did all the male, all the non-male. He did all the male voices of uh, extra characters in the animated show, which got
Mm-hmm.
to the point where I noticed it and I got kind of annoyed. The same thing,
Mm-hmm.
and of course, his counterpart on the female side was Majel Barrett. So I
Right.
couldn't help but hear Majel Barrett and Jimmy Doohan's voices in every other character. I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
it was nice that they brought Roger C. Carmel back to play Harry Mudd in the Mudd's
Mm-hmm.
Passion episode.
And they brought back I
Mark
can't
Leonard.
remember his name.
Didn't they bring
Yeah,
back
Mark
Mark
Leonard.
Leonard? Yes,
Yeah, they
as
brought
Sarek.
back, and then and Cyrano Jones. I got a mail block on Stanley. Oh, uh, I can't remember, but they brought back the original voice for the Dribble episode for
Stanley Adams, Cyrano
Stanley
Jones.
Adams. Thank you so much. Yep, that's Cyrano
He
Jones.
wrote the I believe he wrote the Mark of Gideon. And no offense to Stanley Adams, but Mark of Gideon was a weak episode with a weak ending. There's an episode
Yeah.
about overpopulation, and it
Mm-hmm.
just ends like they they saved the woman's life, but they didn't really solve the problem. They just kind of left them with the same problem that they had in the beginning of the episode. The fact
Right.
that there was no privacy, and they wanted to reduce their population through this virus. And the daughter of the regent, or whoever the president of the world,
Mm-hmm.
of Gideon, wanted this to happen, and
Mm-hmm.
it would have spread to others. And well, they saved her life and left without really resolving their problem, the planet's problem. So
Yeah,
I
it
guess
was
I
one of
guess
their
I guess
more.
it was I guess it was like deal with it
Mm-hmm.
without killing each other.
Yeah, it was kind of a little bit more of their heavier-handed episode again. That didn't really fully work because it was a
Yeah.
little more heavy-handed. And again, like you said, didn't have an end to it. But did you know that Ted Baxter from Mary Tyler Moore Show also provided a voice on the animated show? Ted Knight himself.
Ted Knight did? Really?
Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
we're waiting.
yeah.
I
Oh,
think
that
Ted
was.
Knight, I think Caddyshack. I can't help it.
Yep.
I'm a
Yeah, I
millennial.
guess. Yep, yep. Okay. Oh, yeah, Caddyshack. That's it. Well,
Well,
I've sent younger men than you, younger boys than you, to the chair. It's been ages since I've seen that film. I gotta watch that film again. Caddyshack is a
hey,
wonderful.
Mike makes a claim about my heart. He says, "Nerdporeal, your heart is Klingon." I thought my heart was Romulan. I thought I was a bad guy. I was one that gets people riled up.
And I just want to say hi to Floral from Under a Rock has joined us today. Did I say hi to you, DJ Ronnie G? I hope I did, but if I didn't, there we go. Say hi to you.
Yeah,
And
DJ Ronnie G he's a great channel. If you haven't subscribed to him, subscribe to him. He uses he has a computer. I might be completely mistaken. He can correct me on this, but he does streams where he basically has like he has like a telescope. He looks out like for looks at like astronomy, looks at the
oh,
stars and stuff. And so I always claim that, hey, have you discovered a new planet today or
mm.
something?
Here I thought you said it was looking through the window shades. No, I'd watch that channel. Gonna take this and Mrs. Johnson.
Yeah.
Of course, we got to say hi to, of course, Brandon, the anime guy. I can't remember if I said hi to you or not. You trouble making anime person, you.
Yeah, I mean, Brandon's a big. Me and him are going to be doing whenever he can. We're going to be doing. He's going to be my next guest for Nerdporeal. We're
Mm-hmm.
going to be talking about the Deep Space Nine episodes covering Miles O'Brien suffering. Remember all the Miles O'Brien must suffer episodes, or let's torture O'Brien episodes.
Colin P. He must have really loved going on. It's like, oh great, you're treating me like shit again. Okay.
Especially, I love there was the one in the episode Tribunal where O'Brien gets accused by the Cardassians of murder or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they take him away. They take him to Cardassia, and they strip him of his clothes, and then they throw him into a chair, and they take his right. I think it's his right or left molar out, because that's what the Cardassians do. They remove the molar. Every Cardassian has his molar removed for identification purposes. So you see, he's like, oh, and stuff. And then it becomes an Odo. Then it becomes an Odo episode, because he becomes I forgot the Cardassian term for legal representative is.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what it is, but then it becomes an Odo episode. But it's just the fact that they stripped him naked. I was like, whoa, what is this? And like, and they didn't even. We didn't. The audience didn't know what he was accused of. That was what the audience was waiting for, was what was he accused of. Oh, we don't tell you what you're accused of. You're guilty before you go to trial. The trial is just here for the people. Think of the children, think of the people. They want to feel better, which is what his counsel was telling him. That toady weasel old man Cardassian dude, I couldn't stand him. I was hoping like O'Brien would smack him.
Well, I suppose it kind of shows, it's like this is what it's like in a totalitarian regime. You just get yanked off the street, and
Yeah, it's
you don't know what it's there for. Someone might have said one thing, and that's it. You go down the hallway, and someone steps out from behind you, plugs you, and that's it.
yeah, the Cardassians to me are based off of like your classic 1984 type of totalitarian.
Hmm.
Big Brother, the was it the Ingsoc party? That whole idea, and Obsidian Order takes that further. They know
Hmm.
what you did before you even knew what you did and stuff. So
Yeah, well, kind of like a KGB. It's like, oh, they're
yeah,
watching you.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, crazy. But I mean, a lot of I one thing I'm interested in is like a lot of the ideas that went into like the different aliens. So Klingons obviously I think, in my opinion, are based on the Spartans, the whole warrior mentality of the
Hmm.
Spartans. Hence, or that's where, at least that's where Ronald D. Moore drew their culture from. Whereas I think in the original
Hmm.
series, the Klingons were just based off of totalitarian Chinese, and of course in the movies, Star Trek 6, they were based on the Soviets because
Hmm.
91 Soviet Union collapsed and
Hmm.
Glasnost was becoming was a thing, and the wall came down a couple
Right.
of years before that. So that's why
Hmm.
Nimoy came up with, well, what if the wall came down outer space? You know?
Right. And and I have to sit back and say, in some ways, I almost prefer the TV original Klingons more than the Next Generation one, because the Next Generation ones seem to be so stereotype, monodimensional. When you had the original Klingons, you had each one of the three major ones, because there was a couple that showed up that we won't talk about.
Have
But
we a
John
ram
Kalikos,
among the sheep? I love Core. Core had the best dialogue. I mean, I love Kang and Koloff too, but Core had the best dialogue. Him and
yeah.
Shatner, John Kalikos and Shatner had the best chemistry. Like the way they
Oh
did
yeah,
their
they
lines
did.
against each other, it was just like, oh,
Hmm.
I have goosebumps
And
right now.
yeah, and there you see that military governor Klingon that's in
Yeah.
there, and the political behind it. Then of course Koloff with the more
My dear
uh,
Captain Kirk.
right, the silver tongued devil, and all that.
It was like he had a
And then
little
you
bit of a
had
Trelaneism. William Campbell had a little bit of a Trelaneism in that little, my dear Captain, oh, Captain Kirk.
mhm. Did
Oh,
you know
chuckle.
that he almost became Cisco, don't you?
Who?
William Campbell. He
No
was on the
way.
short list. Yeah, he was
I
on the
did not know
short list
that.
to be. Yeah, he was on the
So he
short list
wasn't
to become.
always. So Cisco wasn't always meant to be um,
No,
African
it went
American or
right. It went to
black.
the right person. It went to the right person, type of thing.
Yeah.
But William Campbell was considered as a possibility for Cisco, and then of course James, of course Michael and Sarah as Kang. I mean, that stoic warrior. How wonderful it's like you saw dimension with these people that there's all these this different facets to the Klingon society, and then we get to Next Generation is I want cock. Let's fight. Today is a good day to die. Virtually is what you're getting out of them constantly. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
can you spread it out a little bit more? Let's have a little more. Even in Star Trek 3 with Christopher Lloyd, you had a different intrigue in there. He's kind of going against his own people in some ways, being sneaky. Uh, but being not really honorable. If you take a look at it, he's not being an honorable Klingon according to the Next Generation. But what a
Yeah.
great performance he had.
Oh yeah. Give me Genesis. We
Mm,
have the right to preserve our. We have the right to preserve our race, and
mm,
because to show that we're sincere, I will kill one of the prisoners. Who is this? How dare you take prisoners? The fact that we have prisoners does matter, or I forget how he puts it, but
mhm.
it's such a great performance. I mean,
Yeah,
he doesn't measure up to Khan in the previous movie
no,
because who
no,
can?
you're right.
Just bring Ricardo Montalban, have him quote Moby Dick, and
Hmm.
you'll have me like a schoolboy, sitting down, listening with like this, you know, just like just super duper awesome and menacing. But I thought one thing I did like about 3 was that we got to see Kirk fight.
Hmm.
Older Shatner bring back some of his TOS fighting
Yeah. Kirk
because
Fu.
he needed to do that because of what they did to his son. And
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen the movie multiple times, but to this day, every time you see this, and I know Critical Drinker put it best when he was talking to, I think I forget who he talked to. I think it was Bulls Trek or someone. Um, he basically the same thing. When David gets stabbed, there's no music, there's nothing. You just hear, "Ah,"
Right.
and that's it. And when I
Mm-hmm.
first saw the movie, I didn't know what was going on. And all of a sudden, we hear Savick saying, "Admiral, David is dead." And of
Mm-hmm.
course, then we see Shatner, fall off the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't so much his delivery that chilled me to the bone. I'm getting chills right now thinking about it. But it was the way the other castmen looked at him, especially James Doohan and DeForest Kelly.
Mm-hmm.
The way they looked at him when he was going through that,
Right.
and he's like, "You bastards, you Klingon bastards!" And then of course, then they did the awesome self-destruct sequence, and then
Mm-hmm.
of course, best part was the Klingons are on board the ship. They're looking for everybody, and they're like, we're
Mm-hmm.
hearing we're hearing this we're hearing this in sequence. And then he puts the communicator like 5
Mm-hmm.
4, get out, get
No,
out of
get
there,
out of
get
there.
out. And then the Enterprise blows up.
Boom. There it goes.
And then I did not think of it, but seeing that when they're on the mountain and they see the Enterprise,
Mm-hmm.
going through the atmosphere, burning up into
Mm-hmm.
its final resting place, and they're like, and of course you see them looking up, and Kirk is like, "Bones, my God, Bones, what have I done?"
Mm-hmm.
And McCoy, of course, says what makes McCoy awesome is like, "You did what you had to do, give death a fighting chance to live," or something like that. I forget exactly what he
Yeah.
said. Um,
Yes.
and it's such a moving moment because
Mm-hmm.
they try to copy that in Star
Mm-hmm.
Trek Beyond.
And the most important word you said, try to copy it.
Yeah, they destroyed the Enterprise in
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek Beyond. It's the third movie, and they tried to bring back, Kirk doesn't want to. Kirk's getting older. They brought that whole
Mm-hmm.
idea, Kirk getting older and not wanting to, is not sure of where he's going to go in his life,
Mm-hmm.
which was also stolen from Wrath of Khan. So
Mm-hmm. And you're doing it with a 30-year-old kid saying, I'm getting old.
yeah, and then of course, then Kirk rides a motorcycle, and
Mm-hmm.
Kirk rides a motorcycle, and they destroy a swarm of ships with rock and roll with Beastie Boys. And
Yeah.
if I guess, I mean, Chad, do you believe the power of the Beastie Boys can destroy a swarm of ships? I don't know.
I don't know. It can kill my eardrums. I was never a Beastie Boy fan. I never was. And he's so obsessed
Sabotage. I
about them.
mean, I didn't even think Sabotage was their better. I thought "Fight for Your Right to Party" was their better
Party.
song.
Right. That was like that was their anthem, basically. The one that.
So when I remember I went with in college. I went with friends of mine to see Quantum of Solace, late 2008. That's when I first saw the Star Trek 2009 trailer, and I'm
Hmm.
hearing Beastie Boys. I'm like, wait, what is this? I hear Beastie Boys, and I hear a kid driving a car off a cliff. He dives out of the car, he gets up, and now all of a sudden this cop's like, "What is your name?" He's like, "I'm James Tiberius Kirk." And I'm like, "What?" And then they showed the new Star Trek. And I was like, I didn't know how to feel about that. I didn't know how to
Hmm.
feel about this rock and roll because I mean, I've watched TNG. They play freaking the classics. The Star Trek's always
Hmm.
been about the classics, not so much about
Hmm.
modern stuff. Orville can get away with it because it's the Orville, but
Right. It's a different.
Star
It was,
Trek,
it was a different creature.
yeah. And then of
Well.
course I mean, I like the. I believe it or not, I liked the movie when I first saw it, but
Uh,
the sequels did not pan out. And then rewatching the JJ stuff along with New Trek, just it got less and less enjoyable. It got more. It just wasn't written well,
hmm.
especially
No.
and Robert Meyer Burnett put it perfectly. Nero is a terrible villain. They could have done so much more with that character.
Right. They could have. I mean, the comic book lead up to that did a better job of that
Mm-hmm.
countdown. So, yeah, I know what you mean. So we have your trifecta with an added fourth of course, Alien, Star Trek, Star Wars in 2001. What other ones? What other stuff grabs your interest that you like to go And it doesn't even necessarily need to be science fiction, fantasy, geek stuff. But what's one of the things that inspires you, or you can't wait to enjoy or watch or
I mean, I'm
read?
big right now. Right now, I'm working on a Super Mario retrospective for Super Mario 64. So I've before I was ever a Star Trek fan, I was a Nintendo fan. I grew up. I was born in the early to mid '80s, '84. I was born in '84,
Mm-hmm.
so I grew up playing NES and Super NES. So Mario was always the thing that I played with. I did not play with toys or action figures so much. I guess my
Mm-hmm.
imagination was very limited when I was a kid. So I played. I gravitated towards video games and movies. So I used to watch. I first act when I first even before I owned a Nintendo, even before we owned a Nintendo or NES. I used to work the VHS, work the VCR. And the first
Mm-hmm.
thing I was 2 or 3 years old, I learned how to work the VCR by putting in the same Donald Duck VHS all the time. I used to watch it every day, every morning. I used to get up and watch it every morning. I don't know how I figured it out, but I did. So I used to watch a lot. I used to like classic Disney. I used to watch
Mm-hmm.
classic Disney and classic Looney Tunes all the time. Now
Oh yeah.
it's now both companies are. I mean, well, Hollywood in general is kind of. I'll say this about Hollywood and companies that have been around for a long time. It's kind of like the same with nations. No nation lasts for a
No.
very long time. And
Mm-hmm.
I think the same can be said for companies.
Right.
So I think companies eventually become rotten, and I think Hollywood is kind of all the companies with Hollywood and them relying on franchises that were popular in the past
Mm-hmm.
are
Well,
they're kind of destroying themselves, in my opinion.
companies are soulless entities. There's no soul to them. Is what's running those companies is what is you have to look at, and a lot of these people have no love, no respect for what there was beforehand. They just see, hey, we just give you the infamous member berries, and they'll come. Just like, oh, we have enough explosions in the film, they will come. If and they're so simple minded, and in many ways afraid to take a chance.
Yeah,
Um, and we're on the verge. I know we're on the verge. Somebody's going to take a big chance somewhere. This is going to be off of YouTube. This is where our next generation of filmmakers is going to be straight off of YouTube here.
I agree.
And we're going to have our new batch of Spielberg's, Coppola's, Scorsese's, all the way across the board. And we're going to see it within the next 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. The stuff that comes out of fans, I enjoy
Mm-hmm.
more than stuff that comes out of the Hollywood professionals, the ones that should
Mm-hmm.
be making the better product, the ones that
Right.
we give our money to support, because we're
Mm-hmm.
not just we're I mean, once again, we're not consumers, we're customers. You want
Right.
and there's this thing, people fans are going like I'm going to say quote unquote fans because I'm kind of question whether they are fans, whether it's new Trek or the Disney Star Wars or the new Who, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the people say that we are entitled or they are entitled. We need to give these shows a chance to support them, and I'm in the opposite boat on that. We don't. I am not entitled to support anything that anybody's doing. You want my support, you have to earn it. You have
Right.
to earn my interest. If you don't
Mm-hmm.
earn my interest, then I am not going to support you.
Exactly.
That's just how I see it. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I love Star Trek, but the new stuff has continually failed, and
Mm-hmm.
I have lost trust in Secret Hideout and Paramount and the current management of Paramount and the current management of Star Trek or New Trek. So
Mm-hmm.
unless they have a means of earning, then the only reason why I'm doing the Strange New Worlds thing is because I'm curious about it. But I'm only going to
Mm-hmm.
do it up to episode 5 because, as far as I'm concerned, it has not impressed me. I have not usually if I really enjoy an episode of a new show, I will rewatch it at least a second time. Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
doing Better Call Saul streams right now, which is
Okay.
another big show that I'm covering week to week.
Mm-hmm.
I love that show. It's more of a it's more of an action thriller comedy drama character based drama
Mm-hmm.
about these characters and how they become the villainous or the bad guys, the criminals that they become in Breaking Bad. And I
Mm-hmm.
think it's a very interesting idea. It's very artistic. It's artistically done. It's a very nerd friendly show. They care a whole lot about continuity. The
Mm-hmm.
writers, I mean, the same people that worked on Breaking Bad work on Better Call Saul. There's a consistency that matches
Mm-hmm.
TNG, DS9, Voyager, and it's something I can easily get behind. And I'm really enjoying the show, despite the fact that it's not a genre show. And
Mm-hmm.
I got invested in the characters. The characters are not good characters. Like they do bad things,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the way it's written. It's the fact that they are depicted as humans that we can kind of get behind them.
Right.
And even
Exactly.
Breaking
Flawed human
Bad,
beings.
as villainous as Walter White was, I still rooted for him at the end. I wanted him to accomplish what he set out in the very first episode to do, have
Mm-hmm.
money saved for his son, despite the fact that
Mm-hmm.
he ruined his family's lives in the process.
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler. Well, basically, this is kind of how the studios are. Those entitled people are. This is exactly how they kind of are.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, like, join it or something.
I mean, that's it right there. It's like that's how they're acting.
Uh oh, Salty has a hot take. He says I didn't like Voyager. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this about Voyager. Voyager to me is the weakest of the classic of the five classic shows. Or so I know some people might say Enterprise is the weakest, but Enterprise seasons 3 and 4 get so much better
Mm-hmm.
to the point where season 3 of Enterprise should have been what Voyager was the whole time. A
Mm-hmm.
fight. It should have been a show about survival. You're cut off from the Federation. You're cut off from space dock. You're cut off from retrofits and from resupplies. You're out in a totally distant part of the galaxy where there's nothing known about them.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, what I did like about Voyager was that they tried to create as many relationships, as many friendships with other races as they could. Did trade,
Mm-hmm.
but it was too clean. It was too
Mm-hmm.
clean. It was too pristine. It was like they came out of space dock every episode.
Right.
But there was one episode that addresses what Voyager should have been. It was called Equinox, and this was
Mm-hmm.
the finale of season 5, going into season 6, two-parter. And yet John Savage played the other starship captain of the USS Equinox, and that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty much what Voyager should have been, where they had to deal with really hard issues.
Mm-hmm.
Really would have those would have been those in my opinion would have made compelling stories. And I'm not the first one that has said this. Dave Cullen has said this on his channel. Heck, I think other YouTubers, Robert Meyer Burnett probably said this too. I still
Mm-hmm.
like Voyager a lot. It's a show that it was one of the few shows I watched as a kid as it was airing, starting with the end of season 3, going into season 4. Once I saw Scorpion Part 1, and of course then Scorpion Part 2, then you had 7 and 9. Then I kept watching Voyager up until the end. I
Mm-hmm.
was happy with the end when it came out. I was in high school. I didn't know what did I know when I was in high school. I knew decent storytelling, but I didn't know that the finale could have been better. Now
No.
that I've rewatched it compared to DS9, Voyager's finale needed at least one more episode
Right.
as a closure, as an epilogue, because it just ends with them approaching Earth and that's it.
I mean, I found it a tiring show, Voyager, because it's always that. Oh, we're gonna get that thing to get home. We're gonna get that thing to get home. Oh, we lost it. Now we get in their episode, and that gets tiring and boring after a while.
Oh yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and and the horrible. If you're gonna go 7 years with that, you're gonna have to switch up your gimmick somewhere. You're gonna have to sit back and go, okay, this is how we started it. Now, this is how we're gonna go.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when you're walking off the basis that you have the storylines off of DS9 where you have basically there's several episodes strung together having these larger arcs, or like in Babylon 5 with the each story has a meaning, connects one to another. They should have done something like that and go, okay, we got that going, and now let's change it. Let's switch it up. Let's do this now and
Hmm.
see what we can do with it. Let's take a chance. and maybe they were afraid to. Maybe they were just being lazy. I don't know, but I found that the weakest of the Star Trek series is all across the board. Myself too. I thought they had a great pilot. I thought their pilot was one of the best pilots that they did for Star
Caretaker.
Trek. Yeah, I thought that was one of the best pilots they did. But uh, but as it goes, the show I think really needed something. It was missing
There
besides
needed to
poor
be
Gibson
more.
Books.
I think there needed to be more conflict with the Maquis because a good portion, I think a third of the crew, because when the Voyager was swept by the wave that the caretaker sends, like a third of the crew got killed, including the chief medical officer, the first
Hmm.
officer, the chief engineer.
Hmm.
So they needed the Maquis crew that were already there were able to basically replace the fallen,
Hmm.
Starfleet. So I felt that there should have been more conflict with the Maquis. Like, not just they took that idea and they just put it into a single character, and that character was Seska. And
Hmm.
Seska was originally Maquis, but then they changed her to Card. Then we find out she's a Cardassian agent,
Hmm.
and she's just goes and escapes, hangs out with the Kazon Nistrum, Jalcula. She has a kid, pretends the kid's Chakotay. That's how they steal the ship in Basics Parts 1 and 2. Then they maroon the crew. And then, of course, Chucky or Brad Dourif, basically, as a Betazoid, manages to retake the ship and with the help of Tom Paris and a bunch of Talaxians. And that's how they retake the ship. And it comes back for the rest of the Voyager crew.
Hmm.
Um, and I thought that was it was okay, but I felt like there should have been. I think it should have been it should have been an arc throughout the whole show, and
Yeah.
not just compressed into a single villainous like Sesko. I
Right.
feel like there should have been more stuff with. I think there should have been like a Chakotay versus Janeway arc and stuff, to the point where Chakotay probably would have started acting against her. Like, there were
Hmm.
points where they disagreed. They blatantly disagreed on stuff. Like
Hmm.
Scorpion Part 2 was a good example of that. And they could have
Right.
went and they could have started like a nice little arc, where Chakotay would have been on Janeway's excuse my language shit list.
Hmm. No problem. You can use
I
it.
mean, they could have went in a whole lot. I mean, I liked a lot of the episodes. Not all the episodes were great, but I
Hmm.
liked a lot of them. And I can watch Voyager any day over
Oh yeah.
New Trek.
This is what I have to say about the stuff they're putting out now. Kurtzman and people have made the shows that we didn't necessarily like look like classics. Kennedy is making the Star Wars Holiday Special in Episode One look like masterpieces.
You know why?
Uh,
I agree with you on that. I watched the holiday special. The bad guys, the Imperial. I mean, the Imperials that go and they threaten Chewie's family.
mhm.
I felt scared for them. When
Yeah,
villains could be villains and they could be
right.
scary. It,
Hmm.
it helps you get you invested in the good guys. It helps you get more invested, and you are more invested in what's going on. I like it
Hmm.
when bad guys are bad guys. When you make
Right,
bad guys um, sympathetic, when you make them
right.
cartoon characters, it loses that epic edge. Like I said this about Disney Star Wars. Star Wars lost its edge with
Hmm.
them. I mean,
Right.
they tried to bring it back a little bit with Rogue One. I love the third act of the movie, even though it doesn't really mesh well with the beginning of the original Star Wars, A New
No, not
Hope.
at all. Hmm.
Um, I still thought I still got a big kick out of seeing Vader, slicing all slicing all those rebels down, even though there was no real need to do it. I would have gone on the other side of the door.
Hmm.
Engage. Who engages Vader? You want to die. Any human would not. Any rebel would not do that. They freaking. So it's ridiculous. But I love the battle at the end. But
Hmm.
leading up to it was, we rebel.
Yeah.
We're rebels. We rebel. I mean, who
Hmm.
wrote this? Oh yeah, a bunch of Hollywood actors that can't come up with good Star Wars level dialogue.
Somehow Palpatine's returned.
Why? Why did he return? Oh, Sith alchemy. And this was answered by the guy from Lord of the Rings, from Dominic Monaghan, who played Merry in Lord of the Rings,
Mhm.
and he was in Lost.
Yeah.
I
And
think
it's like,
that's why he got the jobs, because he's connected to Abrams through Lost.
there we go. And yeah, I mean, so Abrams and Torres were bringing people he's worked with before onto this stuff, and you know, so it's like, I am all the Jedi, I am all the Sith. Compelling writing right there. I'm compelled.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel the Disney stuff was a missed opportunity,
It was.
and
That's
like I mean, I still like Rogue One to a degree, but it
mhm.
doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel as epic as even the prequels felt more epic
Right.
than Rogue One. I was really maybe it's because it was the prequels and I knew like the characters were going to, a lot of them were going to die eventually. Maybe that's
hmm
why I was interested. But I mean, three Revenge of the Sith,
hmm
it's up there with in my book. It's up there with the original trilogy. I'm not sure you would agree. Well, you probably wouldn't. You're older. You probably like, yeah, this is, prequels are crap. Originals are the best, and
well, I think
I'm out of my mind.
I think the original is the best, but I think the prequels are
Yeah,
very good. And the weakest one out of it was, of course, the Phantom Menace. And all it needed was a couple changes in that movie, and it would have been a lot better. Just a couple changes, not many, just a few
excuse
changes.
me, the Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, yeah. One, of course, is to tone down Jar Jar. If you would tone Jar Jar down. Two, if you
You
would have
said
did,
big doo doo this. You said big
yeah,
doo doo this
Misa
time.
big doodoo. Yeah.
You go from I have altered the deal. Pray I don't alter any further to you said big doo doo this time. Oh,
I mean, tone
that,
him down. Not get rid of the character, but just tone the character down. The other one was Anakin was originally going to be 15 years old in the movie, but George sat back and goes, "No, I want him to have him younger eventually."
yeah, and what's funny was he addressed that. Like somebody asked, like I don't know who interviewed him. I don't know if it was Hayden Christensen or
hmm
Seth MacFarlane. It was he did interviews with those two,
hmm
and Lucas was like, "I made my decision. I made my decision to make Anakin younger because I think a lot of fans were like, why did you do that? Why
hmm
couldn't he be a little bit older?" And I
Right,
kind of
and
agree. I feel that he probably should have been older. He should have been 15. Heck, they should have
right.
just had Hayden Christensen from the beginning. Hayden Christensen would have been what, 17 or 18 when episode one came out. So he would have been, the right age. And then of course he'd be in,
hmm
19, 20 in episode two. And then of course, he'd be a veteran.
Right,
He'd be 22, 23 by the time of Vengeance Sith.
right. And and he was sent back saying, George. I remember George was saying he changed the age to 10 because he thought it was more heart wrenching for Anakin to be yanked away from his mother when the Jedi's left with him. And I'm going, no, it's not, because at the age of 15, you're at that age of reason.
Yeah.
You fully comprehend. If there is something that would start driving you down a dark side, it would be that, because you're old enough to know and not be able to control. And
Yeah.
now you're being sent to there. And of course, having an older child actor. And it's nothing against poor Drake Lloyd. Drake Lloyd was actually a good child actor, just that Lucas just didn't know how to direct him. And
I
that's
was
the
like,
sad
that's the
thing.
kid. I'm like, that's the kid. That's Arnold's son from Jingle All the Way. That's why
Yeah.
that's the only thing I knew him from.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and I feel so sorry for Jake Lloyd, all that was dumped on him for no reason at all, which it was more George Lucas's fault, in my opinion, because he couldn't direct.
Yeah.
And he never was a director. Um,
But he didn't. And what's funny was he didn't. I don't think he directed for a very long time. He hasn't directed anything
Star Wars.
since Star Wars. He didn't, because he
Yeah.
didn't direct Empire. He didn't direct Jedi. He didn't
No,
direct any of the Indiana Jones stuff. Everything he did
no.
was like he was a producer behind the scenes for
Right.
Lucasfilm. What would he do? Willow, Howard the Duck,
hmm
what and
And
anything ILM.
Radioland Murders.
Hmm,
Wasn't
interesting.
there one, Radioland Murders? Yeah. And, so, he directed THX 1138, of course, American Graffiti. I mean, anybody's got to watch that film. You got to watch that film,
I
American
so
Graffiti.
someone in the community has the name George Lucas, so
Mhm.
I'm sure everyone who's seen me on the chat, I'm like, oh my god, this person's here. Well, for George Lucas, oh my god, it's George Lucas, the director of THX 1138. Of course, I don't get an answer because it's George Lucas. Why would George Lucas respond to me? I'm just a Just a nerd.
You're just a nerd. Just a
Nerdporeal.
humble little nerd.
Admiral.
Yeah. Admiral. Now, people did say though he did ghost shadow and Return of the Jedi quite a bit. That Mark Wan had Lucas breathing down his neck and did some second directing work.
Kind of like in I was reading up on Poltergeist. Spielberg was a shadow director of that movie, even though Toby Hooper was labeled as or listed as the director. I heard he did a lot of shadow directing in that movie too, or Spielberg.
And if I understand, Toby Hooper didn't like it. From what I understand, it was kind of no.
Other than that, only other thing I know Toby Hooper did was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original.
Right. Yeah. And a few other things I can't remember off the top of my head what he did, but he did a few others. But yeah, I mean, Poltergeist that was the other one. But yeah, from 1977 to 1999, that's a huge gap between doing actual directing.
Yeah, so he probably was rusty. He was very rusty in this. Skills.
And
he probably didn't know how to work with He probably forgot how to work with the actors.
Well, they even said even back when he did know it back then, he didn't know how to work with the actor. It was okay, faster, more intense, faster, more intense. They said those are about the only two things they knew that would come out of his mouth was okay, faster, more intense, faster, more intense.
Yeah. And so I think this was just like Lucas was just learning. He was learning as he was going too during this thing. So that's why you see a lot of mistakes and stuff. So that's why, like, at least the prequels. I mean, I don't know how you feel between episodes 1 and 2. Sometimes I like 1 more than 2. I think I feel 1's better than 2. I know a lot of people say 2's better than 1. It varies among people. But one thing that did improve was 3. 3 was the payoff, the ultimate payoff that everybody was waiting for. So I can say that the prequels improved over time, whereas I feel the Disney stuff I think got worse over time. I don't know which one you think is worse, but I think Rise of Skywalker is the worst.
I do too.
Of the 3.
I do too.
And I'll tell you some people say Last Jedi for good reasons, but I feel like Rise of Skywalker ruined the original saga. The first 6 movies.
And another reason why I think it was the worst one is, at least with The Last Jedi, I sat down, I've said this story many times. It took me about twice as long to watch the movie than as long as the film is, because I'd stop like every 5-10 minutes, go through a tirade because of all the stuff on there. I mean, just a tirade screaming at the TV, then keep on going. I mean, I was just so fired up.
They fly
when I sat, when I went, my friend Nick Montgomery says, "You got to come on over. I want to watch you watch Last Skywalker, or whatever, the Rise of Skyweedy, or Palpatine, or whatever the hell, Rise of Memberberries." And he said, "I want to watch it." And I'm sitting there, and I'm in a good 10,
is that something minutes. A friend would say? I'm kidding.
Yeah. I'm about 10, 15 minutes into that, and I just look at him and I go, "No," I'm not feeling anything. I'm not feeling anything.
Yeah.
I'm not feeling elation. I am not feeling rage. I am completely lukewarm. And that was how I was through the whole film. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the worst thing. You're indifferent.
Right. At least with The Last Jedi, it got you fired up.
Yeah.
Right. It got you fired up. And right. This was nothing. It was a big nothing berry. It's just like lukewarm through the whole thing. It's like afterwards it's kind of like a meh. And this is how you're supposed to end your series.
Mm-hmm.
I would have loved to have been screaming and yelling at the TV for that to end. At least there would have been some passion, or at least sit back and go, "Oh my God, he did fix it," which we knew it wasn't going to happen. But
just the way the movie was edited, I was like, "What's going on?" Like I started not paying attention. I started. My ADD just started acting up, and I started not paying attention. I'm like, what happened? How did because I didn't even I lost track of the space battle at the end of the movie. I was like, how did they destroy the thing again? How did they destroy that tower? I didn't even remember. I didn't remember what was going on.
Yeah.
All I remembered was lightning in the air, and it knocked out the fleet, but it didn't knock out the fleet because this is Disney, and they They can't even they can't even respect their own continuity. But
No.
of course and of course Rey was the one that defeated Palpatine ultimately. Palpatine was her grandfather. I was like, I'm like, it's not. I'm like, first I didn't buy that she was Palpatine. She's Rey Palpatine. I did not buy that at all. I did not buy that at all. I would have rather had them just stick with what they Last Jedi did, even though I thought that was kind of disappointing too. Very underwhelming. Oh, they were nobody. I would have rather had them keep that.
Right. That's
But
coming out of nowhere. The hero out of nowhere.
yeah, exactly. So I just once I saw Rise of Skywalker. Now, I even though I came out of Force Awakens really angry. I did not like the way they ended Han Solo. I still hate it to this day. I hate what they did. I didn't hate the movie itself, but I was very disappointed with it because it didn't add to it. They had an opportunity. They were in a whole new era of Star Wars. They had an opportunity to create new ships to make to set up a new whatever the political situation was. They could have kept it minimal like the original trilogy, where we just knew that there was an empire, there was a senate, and that senate got dissolved by the emperor, and that was all we needed to know. They didn't even have anything like that. We didn't know who this first order was. All we know is it came from the empire somehow.
Right.
And there was this guy named Snoke, and then we have this Kylo Ren guy. He is a son of Han and Leia that turned to the dark side somehow.
Yeah, emo Vader.
And then he murders Han. And he just murders Han, and then they let Han fall. Then that was the thing that really pissed me off, was they let Han fall. He fell. He fell like that's how a villain dies when they fall. That's a symbolic thing. Why did they do that? Was he a villain? I guess he was a bad father, according to the movie. Because maybe Kylo Ren's like, he was not a good father to me. He tells Rey that. I was like, okay. And then after that, Rey beats Kylo Ren. Now, it felt fine that he got beaten because I was still angry that he killed Han. But then I thought, I'm like that kid. Wait a minute. That's not right. And I was like, she never trained with the lightsaber. She never trained in the Force. She didn't even know what the Force was until Han Solo said, it's true, the Force. I'm like, yeah, we know that. Why are you saying that? You're making a big deal about saying that. So, and then she beats him. I was like, what is this? And everyone's like, oh, wait till the next movie. They'll answer it. They'll answer it. They'll answer it. Did they? No.
Nope. No,
remember the lightsaber? How'd they get the lightsaber? Oh, that's a story for another time. When was that other time? Was it the next movie? No. Was it in episode 9? No. Was it in a comic? Yeah. A guy, some guy caught it.
Yeah. They have to, if you have to go to the comics and novels to try to explain the movie, you have failed.
Yeah. Well, I'm like,
the comics and the movies are nice fillers.
I'm not going to buy your crap. What, you trying to fleece me? You're trying to get more money on me? Screw you. You can't put it in your movie. I'm not supporting you. That's a breach of trust, in my opinion.
It is. I mean, think about it. As much as people make fun of Lucas in his writing, the soliloquy from Obi-Wan Kenobi to Luke about the dark, as he explains basically the history. There was, Jedi's were guardians of peace and justice. I fought with your father in the Clone Wars. We were betrayed. I mean, just that you had the entire history, about 20, 30 years of history, all in that small period where you knew what was going on, but yet you didn't know and you wanted to know.
Yeah.
And that's just it. It's like, okay, now we understand what's going on. Now we understand how everything came about. Now we know why there's no Jedi. Now we know about Vader from a certain point of view. And now we know that the Empire raised up. We knew there was this war that helped cause the collapse of the Republic.
Yeah.
So now we understand that. Now we want to see it.
Exactly.
So, but they never did anything like that in the other film. They don't have that comprehension to do that.
No.
And when you had Rey shoot down 3 TIE fighters in one shot,
and she goes, "Woo, that's great."
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, like, that's the middle movie of this trilogy. What was Luke doing at the end of the middle movie of the trilogy that he was a star in? Oh, Ben, help, please. I'm hanging from Bespin and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna die. I'm gonna fall. And
Mm-hmm.
he reaches out for Leia, and Leia hears him, and that's how
Mm-hmm.
he gets rescued. Because he would have died. He was close
Right.
to death. He was on the verge of giving up. He was at rock bottom.
He
They don't
was.
do that for Ray because they can't do it for Ray because
No.
she's a
Mary Sue.
girl, and you can't do that to a girl. It's
Yeah.
just who does that to a
Don't.
girl? That's it's abuse.
No one tell me that Luke Skywalker is a Mary Sue. He is not. But Ray, she is. One
If
hundred
Luke
percent.
was a Gary Sue, he would have beaten Vader in Empire,
Right. In a heartbeat.
and he would be teaching Yoda. Yoda wouldn't be teaching him.
Right.
Remember when Ray was teaching Luke more than Luke
Mm-hmm.
was teaching her?
Right. I
Because
can teach you how to be a
what
Jedi.
because that's what students do. They teach the teachers.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
Because the
well.
teachers are toxic and they're from the old guard, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a toxic guard. That's we're trying to reforge civilization. Now we're getting now we're getting into those political political stuff. But
Well, which unfortunately bring it in. They
yeah,
bring it in. It's not
it's
us.
it's a symptom. It's a symptom of a greater problem
Right. I
amongst.
mean,
It's not just in Hollywood. It's in big tech.
mm-hmm.
It's in
Everywhere.
politics. It's all over the place. And there's some evil I'm going to say this. I'm saying like a conspiratorial jerk. There's some evil organization that's puppet mastering all this right now.
I wish I had Vigilante on the show with me. He was. I'd let you guys start talking about that.
I don't know him. I don't know enough about that. I don't know
Oh,
enough
Vigilante
about that.
Williamson. Oh yeah, he's a good guy.
Well, I
Yeah,
love Vigilante Williamson.
yeah.
I just don't know enough about what I just said.
Oh,
That's why
okay.
I don't talk about it much. I usually listen
Yeah.
to others talk about
Yeah,
it.
talk about it. But I mean, that's why it just seems like everything has gone to There's a reason why Netflix is losing money. There's a reason why Disney's losing money. There's a reason why all these people are losing money.
They take their
They're
customers for granted. They take
right.
they take fans for granted. I mean, fandom, people become fans of things. It takes a long time. And usually when you have a consistently good thing going, and you have a consistently good thing that reaches out to multiple people,
Mm-hmm.
and it's consistent. One thing about the nerd in me, the nerdporeal in me, the admiral in
Mm-hmm.
me, I love consistency and stuff. I
Right.
like how things, I like how stories are. What's up, Punk Waddle? The Lord of the Waddles. That's what I call him now. He'd probably disagree with me. What was I saying? But when you bring stories and when you bring characters and they do stuff and they're not just sitting there like they do in the new Star Wars and the new Trek shows, like they actually
Mm-hmm.
have, they have arcs, they have they do stuff. Godzillionaire, that's my line. How dare you? I say, oh my gosh, all the time. I think I started, I stole that from Red Letter Media. Whenever they see a member buried, they're like, oh my gosh, it's Boba Fett. That's basically where that stems from. So
Oh, okay.
that's why I do it in the chat. And I'm like, oh my gosh, remember him from this? Because that's all it is now. They can't write stories, so they
Oh yeah.
like start the new Trek. They have to depend on member berries. And now they're saying, oh, look at us. We're bringing Trek back to form. We're making it episodic. We're making it hopeful like everybody else. And people are already, fully supporting it. And somebody said it on a stream today that men are easily swayed. And I'm not saying men. I'm saying man as in
Mankind.
mankind.
Yeah.
Don't cancel me, please.
You're canceled. You're off. No. No, I know what you mean. We speak the Queen's in Old English and proper English here, so don't have to worry about that at all. We
Old
know
English,
the
like
definition.
Beowulf Old English, where you can't understand. You can't understand the darn thing.
Yeah.
I
But
can't even
funny.
understand Middle English with your Canterbury Tales. I can't even understand that. Jeez, I don't even know when they started with real English. Or I'm sorry. Okay, that came out wrong. All right.
Now you're
modern.
canceled.
I'll say modern English.
Modern English. But And the funny thing is the ones that cry to us about that, they're the ones that are doing the member berries when we're saying we don't want member berries.
And if you're going to do a member berry, try to earn it.
Right. Exactly.
Put some
We
work
don't.
into it. Don't just
Yeah.
show it and expect us to
Right.
keys. Ooh, can I have it? Can I have it? You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's like they're dangling keys in front of you. That's like the new metaphor for people that just, oh, remember this, and that's how they come
Mm-hmm.
back. That's how everyone's like, oh, Star Wars is saved, Star Trek is saved. I've literally
Mm-hmm.
heard someone say Star Trek is saved from from viewing the first episode of Strange New Worlds. And I'm like, I mean, I want to tell these people. I might, this kind of might come off as mean, but I'm like, I've questioned some of these people saying, "Are you even really a Star Trek fan, or are you just
Right.
in? Are you just into this because you want to be part of the community?" I've noticed this with anime fans at anime conventions, like they dress up as they cosplay as these characters, and I don't think they really care about the shows that or the characters that they are cosplaying as much as they want to be seen, have their pictures
Mm-hmm.
taken, meet new
Right.
people. They're there for the more for the community than for really honoring the content, the product,
Mm-hmm.
the work that came from, and
You're right.
why it's important. And I've noticed this, and I mean, I'm sure it's not true for most people, but I think there's a lot of people that are like that. Hence why
Yeah.
all this stuff, the differences between old Trek and new Trek are flying over people's heads. Even people,
Mm-hmm.
boomers. I see boomers saying, why are there toxic fans talking bad about this? I'm like, I've watched this show from the '60s. I'm like, you did, and you still don't know? What's the matter
Mm-hmm.
with you? Maybe,
Maybe you should watch it again. How
yeah,
long's it been? And the thing is the numbers support the fact that no, the old fans aren't watching it. They have consistently low numbers, and there was always that group of fans. Because I was heavily
excuse
involved
me.
in science fiction fantasy fan clubs back in the '80s and such, particularly Star Trek. And yeah, you had those crazy live in the basements. They literally thought they were Klingons, people. Which, of course, these are the ones that are going out there being the sycophants to these new shows. I mean, they're as long as it has that word on there, they're going to follow it like a Pavlovian dog. But if these shows were really as Star Trek as they say they were, they'd have us watching in droves. They would have higher numbers.
Yeah,
They have just shown that they don't. I mean, the latest Doctor Who that they had ended with lower numbers than the original series. The original series, Battlefield, first episode of Battlefield, had the lowest ratings ever for Doctor Who, and now they have successfully beat that. Well, if you really have all this diehard true Doctor Who fans, you would have a lot more people watching it. If you would have a lot more response. You wouldn't be losing money at Disney Plus, and with if you really were catering to Star Wars fans, those
yeah,
true Star Wars fans coming in there, you're only aiming towards the sycophants that go out there. And
yeah,
forgive me for saying it, the normies that
yeah,
like I want to sit back and say the Big Bang Theory fans. It's like, oh, Big Bang Theory, so neat and cool. Let's be just like them.
yeah.
Yeah, it's
And it's and here's the thing. I mean, you lose your passionate fans, the ones that actually understand the difference between the stuff that was made before and then the stuff that's now being made Kurtzman. If you had us on board, we would be telling other people to watch it, just the way fans used to do back in the day. We would word of mouth, we would say, watch this show. Like I'm telling people to watch Better Call Saul. A lot of the times, when you tell someone to watch a show, they're not going to watch it for the reason of, hey, don't tell me to watch it. I'm going to
mhm,
watch whatever I want to watch. But people still do anyways. People want to share what they love so that they have people to talk to about it.
mhm,
And I guess that's part of the reason why I'm guessing that's part of the reason that's somewhat of a part of the reason why some of the bigger fans of New Trek are doing that. But at the same time, they it's like if like I'll be honest, the community's toxic. The
mhm,
community is toxic. Like I am not comfortable talking having a conversation, whether it's a hard conversation or a more mild conversation about disagreeing on stuff, because they'll jump and they'll say you're this, you're this, you're that, and they get all judgmental.
Yeah.
And one thing that Trek should have taught people is that you don't be judgmental. You and heck, watch Enterprise. Take your preconceptions and bury them. He says that to T'Pol. Archer says that to T'Pol in the first episode, I think, or the second. It was one of the early episodes.
Yeah, one of the first. Yeah.
Same idea. Just it's not just about diversity of your pigmentation. It's also your ideas, your thoughts, and that's why you have conversations.
Right.
And conversations are meant to, it's an opportunity for us to learn from the other person. There are things that I know that the other person may not know, or there might be views that the other person might have that I might not have considered.
Right.
So yeah, there's that open-mindedness that's just not there in these fans, and I don't want to. I don't want to. I mean, one thing I try not to do is I know like a lot of these people, they get triggered when you say you disagree with them on Twitter. So I've been doing that less and less because it doesn't really accomplish anything. So I'll try to say something without sounding negative.
Right.
I'll make it a point without sounding negative. And so hence that's why, like, with Robert Hewitt Wolf, with his tweet, his Q&A tweet that he did, I decided not to correct anybody that has mocked or has complained about toxic, quote unquote toxic, or fans that don't like the new stuff. I just asked my question and about Garrick, and I got a great answer. I messaged it to my friend who I did the Nerdporeal stream with about Garrick, and he was like, "That's great" and stuff. So I still like Robert Hewitt Wolf, despite the fact that he and all the writers are very on a particular side of a political aisle, and they don't like to hear from people on the opposite side of the aisle who they feel is the antithesis of what Star Trek is. And that's just where I believe they're freaking wrong. It's about coming together. It's not about shaming or acting morally superior. If you act morally superior, then you're a villain. Then you're pretty much a villain. And the people that follow you, they're lackeys.
Right. And they got lackeys. I mean, I can tell you, in the days with, especially with Star Trek Next Generation came out, there was a lot of discussion, debate, and heated ones. But the thing is just because it's a heated debate doesn't mean that it was toxic or you're hateful. It was passionate. And and it's like, well, the big difference is we're face to face with each other. So, and pretty much many of us were friends or at least good acquaintances. So you weren't wanting to go out there and cause the issues a problem. But hey, you still were going to hold your ground, have a discussion and debate, and walk, shake hands and walk away afterwards, which you can't get now.
It's like that's what men do. You stick it. You argue about it, and then you shake hands after it, and then you go about your business. Don't hold grudges.
I mean, one of the best political satires that has been made in I don't know how long was a show called Yes Minister and Yes Prime Minister that was on the BBC. And what was so great about it is that you didn't need to know British politics to get it. You just had to understand the underlying belly of politics to understand the show. And what made it so good is you had someone from the Tory side, and you had somebody from the Labor side working together jointly writing the show.
So the Tory side is more conservative.
Conservative, yeah, that's conservative. Yep.
I remember Tories in the American Revolution were the loyalists to the king, to King George.
Yeah.
Okay, and of course the Labor Party is the left, basically the Democrats.
Correct. Right. And so you had the two different opinions, and they were working together, and that's what got some of the best out of it, because they're playing off of each other. Well, you can't do that because you can't play off of this person. You got to shut them out, and we can only have this one side.
Yeah, and that's I totally agree. If you can't, I mean, and once again, it's the antithesis to what Star Trek taught. It's about people working together, coming together. When you disregard that, you're disregarding Star Trek. And that, and like I forget. And like Vito Corleone once said, that I don't forgive. If Star Trek gets struck
Exactly.
down by a bolt of lightning, I'm gonna blame some of the people in this room. Sorry, I'm a big Godfather fan too. I love those movies too. So
You would have loved my uncle. My uncle loved those movies. He was a big mafioso type of guy. He loved the history of the mafia and all that. His favorite mobster was
not Al Capone.
oh no, I'm trying to Meyer Lansky, because Meyer Lansky was the guy that kept the books, and my
Yeah,
uncle was a
Meyer
bookkeeper.
Lansky was a particular. He was a particular faith, a particular race that was kind of done dirty. Well, okay, done dirty is an understatement. Done dirty during a certain time period,
Mm-hmm.
1940, 1939, 1940, 1945. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure, his name is Meyer. So and
Yeah.
last name is Lansky. That gives it all away. It's obviously Eastern European. So.
Mm-hmm. And what's interesting, and Jim always sat back and said, Meyer Lansky, no one could ever pin a kill on him. That he was just the bookkeeper. He never went out there and actually did anything to kill somebody.
So he's kind of
But
like. So was he like kind of like? Well, he wasn't the lawyer. So I would have compared him to like Tom Hagen, because Tom Hagen was a similar type of. He never went out himself and did anything. He just kind of was like behind the scenes.
yeah, he was behind the scenes. But one of the funny moments is, and it was done in one of the movies. I can't remember which movie it was, but Don Rickles comes out on stage at one of the Vegas things. Of course, it's full of mobsters. He goes, "Hey, Meyer Lansky, kill anybody lately?" And of course, everybody erupts in humor, and that was part of the joke, because of all the people that was in that room, Meyer Lansky was probably the one that did not kill anybody.
No.
And that's where everybody, for everybody, that was okay. That's funny.
And I have to call this one out. John Rundle left the perfect quote right here: "Leave the phaser, take the cannoli."
I'll take a cannoli. Oh, he's always talking about food, John.
I
Well,
love food.
we're
I love
coming.
food too.
Mhm. Oh, me too, obviously. Well, we've gone to the other side of 2 hours, so it's been a great talk. We got to do this again. I know certain individuals in the form of Cash Monet and Pacific 414 would love to have us all four together on it sometime, which so we could probably look at that. But do you have anything you wish to plug? I'm sure you got many things, because you're one of the hardest working men on YouTube, because you're the admiral.
I'm the admiral. Well, I mean, right now I'm working. My next video project is Mario 64. It's a retrospective. I've been, once again, like the basis of my channel, my selling point is just it's nostalgia. Basically, I talk about the stuff that I got into as a kid. So I did bring in Star Trek. The first things I talked about was Star Trek, but then I went into Nintendo stuff, because Nintendo stuff is stuff I've been into even earlier. And the fact that I'm getting older, I'm starting to forget how I got into it in the first place. So I'm trying to this is also like me kind of documenting, myself too. So while while learning a little bit more about, the stuff that I really like. So, and I love doing it. I'm still in the writing phase of it. I've been kind of slow lately, but that's the current video project I'm working on. Tomorrow I'm going to watch Strange New Worlds episode 3. I'm going to give my reaction to that probably before noon. So if you're online, and you want to hear my take on episode 3, check it out, because the first 2 episodes I only watched once, and I watched them while taking notes, so I didn't pay as close attention. So
And you know what?
like
I do have a preview. You were kind enough to give me a preview to that for Strange New Worlds episode 3. I'm going to share it with our audience. Here is the preview from the Nerdporeal Lifeform on Strange New Worlds episode 3.
Very interesting, but stupid.
that's what this looks like it's going to boil down to. So I only watch those usually if I really like an episode of a show that I really enjoy. I usually watch the episode at least twice. Like Better Call Saul, I watched twice. Game of Thrones, when it was good before season 8, I watched twice.
Mhm.
So the new Trek has not been enjoyable enough to rewatch.
Mm.
So I'm only going to cover up to episode 5 because episode 5 comes out the same time as another show that's going to be airing for after a 3.5 year hiatus, and of course that show is the Orville New Horizons. So
Has it been
um,
that long? 3.5 years?
yeah, in 2019, season 2 began in January of 2019, and it
Wow.
ended in I believe it ended in May, April or
Okay.
May. So, or maybe it was February. I don't remember, but it ended around April or May. And season 2 was so much better than season 1. Like once I saw Identity parts 1 and 2, I'm like, this is better than, because I was still optimistic about Discovery, and this was
Mhm.
just Identity parts 1 and 2 blew Discovery out of the water completely.
Mhm.
So, which is a no brainer to the chat, I'm sure, and to you too. So, I
Mhm.
apologize for being optimistic back then, but
So so what you're saying about Discovery and Strange New Worlds is
It stinks.
yeah, it's not a return. It's not a return to form. I know some people think it
Mhm.
is. It just isn't. It still has the new Trek tropes.
Yeah.
It has new Trek tropes. It's annoying. It doesn't fit. To me, it still doesn't fit with TOS and
Mhm.
everything else. By the way, where's Doctor Boyce? This is one thing I keep asking. I'm going to keep asking. And I'm sure they're going to put in a throwaway line saying, "Oh, Doctor Boyce retired," in like a single sentence, and that's it.
Well, they'll probably be blind, left-handed, uh, um, multiracial, questioning gender, in a wheelchair but can still walk individual. That's probably they're going to try to put everything in there, and then the character will just explode because it's just too much.
Maybe they'll just swap him pigmentation wise,
There we go.
like they did with Admiral April.
Yeah. Oh.
I did like his actor though,
Yeah.
but
It's a,
he could have played another Admiral. Why did they have to make
mhm.
it April? It's
Right.
like they did that just to piss. They want to piss off the older fans. They want to call the older fans this of that and is and an
Hmm.
ism and stuff. That's what
And Mike
it's intentional at this point.
and Micah Kudo even steps up during that. As a person who did the photo work of making Gene Roddenberry look like Robert April, I am fully supporting of this. No, you've just ruined an honor that you honored a man, the creator of the show, as being Captain April, as Gene Roddenberry, and now you're tossing it off to the side.
This was
It's
Mike
like,
Okuda that said that.
yeah, Michael Kuda. Yeah, Michael Kuda goes, yeah,
Yeah,
as
yeah.
as a person who did
I
the
know where I've seen his Twitter. I know where he stands, and
yeah,
he's just another he's another
yeah,
he's just another boomer. He's just another boomer. It's
yeah.
just like all those guys that worked on Trek back then. It's the same
Hmm.
thing. I mean, they wrote something that was. I'll be honest. The stuff that they wrote is much better than they are.
Hmm.
They think it was all on a particular left side
Hmm.
of a particular thing where it would actually appeal to both sides. So the stuff that they create is much better than they are.
Hmm.
So if they think that they were DS9 or TNG and stuff, they're not.
No,
They're not.
no,
And
and I
so I mean, I still respect them for the work that they did, but the way they
right,
act now, I do not.
it's
I mean,
disgusting. And I, like I said, the biggest thing that I find offensive is not the race swapping or anything. It's a slap in the face to Roddenberry because that was done up as a tribute to Roddenberry.
or just say it's in a different universe.
Right.
Heck, don't even call it
So
Star Trek. Call it
yeah.
Worlds That Are Strange. That's a compelling science fiction name. Worlds That Are Strange.
Hmm.
And instead of calling it Starfleet, call it Fleet Star.
Right. That's what I've been kind of sitting back saying. I even said that about Enterprise. I said, Enterprise is good, but it should be its own science fiction series. It shouldn't be a Star Trek series. And that's what when I first saw when it first came out, and Enterprise did. I said,
It's
this is a nice one, but
it's very funny. Akuda of all people did that because Akuda was the reason why. And I would not have the Star Trek knowledge I'd have if it wasn't for Mike and Denise Akuda. And I love the project they're working on now. Is I forget, it's called the Gene Roddenberry Archives. I don't know if you've seen some of the videos on YouTube. They're trying to like recreate like the look of the original Cage Bridge, and they had an actress portray Yeoman. What's her name?
Colt.
In
Yeoman Colt.
Yeoman Colt. They had an actress who wore the same hair. I thought it was her, but it was actually a different actress that looked just like her. And
Yeah,
I loved seeing that. But I mean, it was Okuda that is the reason why I had the chronology. He wrote the Star Trek chronology back in the day, and he wrote the Star Trek Encyclopedia. Reason why freaking Memory Alpha exists, besides the fact that it's named after the the library in Lights of Zetar, TOS episode 73, but it's because of all the stuff that Mike Okuda brought to it.
Right.
And was part of every different version of the encyclopedia, Star Trek Encyclopedia. I got the 1997 version. I still have it in my closet, but it's completely destroyed. Like the pages are falling out. It was horribly put together. It was not put together well. Same with chronology. Yeah. Those books were not. We got those I think from Walden Books back in the 90s. They were not. They were not manufactured well. Like the pages started falling out, and it was. And I didn't do anything to it. It was just age.
Yeah, you open it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, my hardbound encyclopedia is kind of it's like I get a little nervous when I open it up too. But look at those guys. These are people who should know better. Just like Pablo Hidalgo with Star Wars should know better because he contributed so much with Star Wars, and then to turn around and just stab in the back. And it's like, how are we supposed to have respect for anything now?
Exactly.
That you do.
So, like I said, the work is much better than they are, especially the way I guess they live. It's like it's like the general saying goes: you live long enough to become the villain.
Right, and they become the villain.
Yeah.
Any other podcasts or anything you're going to be on?
Well, strange. Besides doing Strange New Worlds, I'm actually not going to be doing a Thursday stream. Probably going to be doing something with Salty. We're going to talk. We're going to figure out something. We're going to probably do some stream in the future. So stay tuned for that.
Okay, great.
I want to do next week. I'm thinking of doing a Stranger Things recap next week Thursday, because the first half of the new season launches Friday, the 27th, I believe. So I'm gonna be prepping for that. Of course, Monday is going to be the final episode of the first half of the final season of Better Call Saul before it goes on a 6-week break. So there's going to be a lot going to be happening. I'll be honest, my Better Call Saul streams, like this new stream, the stream that I did on Monday, performed much better than all the other streams I've done so far. It's almost up to 650 views. So I need to tell people who watch it to like it, because I only got like 26 or 27 likes out of the 640 views, 600 something views. So but it's a great show. It's definitely something I would definitely recommend. But that's going to be on Monday. And hopefully I want to get my video done. And of course, I'm going to go see the motion picture director's cut on Sunday.
Yeah.
In the theater.
I'm envious.
I saw 2001 in the theater when what's his name? Christopher Nolan was responsible for not remastering, but restoring it or something.
Restoring it?
And they came out with it in 70 millimeter. So I went to a theater that had a 70 millimeter screen, and it was amazing to see.
Oh my!
So I can't wait to see the motion picture director's cut 4K in the theater. So I had Paramount Plus. I did not watch it, or I had Paramount Plus on Amazon for 99 cents. I could have watched the director's cut. But I decided, you know what? I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait until I see it in the theater, which is where I'm supposed to see it, because I haven't watched it in years. I had the DVD and I got rid of it. Mike Pacific still has his DVD, so we were watching it. We were watching it for Paul's Tuesday Night Trek when we were doing it. So, so I can't wait to see it again. It's obviously the much better version of the movie, because I think because I believe they said theatrical cut was not the complete. They were scrambling to complete what they could. Hence why it was released the way it was.
Yeah, some effects weren't fully finished out, and it was in little herky jerky. Some of it was almost like the daily editing takes that they had. So,
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it needed to be finished, so I can appreciate that.
Yeah. So, but other than that, yeah, that's what I have for the next week. So hopefully,
He's a
yeah,
busy man, folks. He's a busy man. I'm glad I got him on here. It's amazing I got him on. He's such a busy person to have on the show. This is
I
great.
enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'd love to be on again.
You will be. You will be. You will be. What was
Empire.
that from? You
I'm not afraid. Ooh, you
will
will
be.
be.
You
You
will
will
be.
be.
Well, for me, you can catch me at about noon Central Standard Time at Pulp Culture Minefield's Saturday morning fun time. I'm the one that pours the beer over the cornflakes as we're doing the show. Celebrating the early days of cartoons. So you can catch me there. I am with, of course, Master Paul. He had me join Tuesday Night Tricks. You can catch me there, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time on the Star Wars guys page. Is there something else, isn't there? What could that be? Oh yeah, that's what it is. The Primetime Kings Sundays, 5:15 ish. It all depends. You never know. We've been kind of late lately, But 5:15 Central Standard Time at 24/7 Fusion Media's page, with of course 24/7 Fusion Media, Fat Steven Seagal, Vigilante Williamson, of course yours truly, me, and of course every Wednesday here at 9 o'clock Central Standard Time. In case you didn't know. And of course, I do bar mitzvahs, funerals, birthday parties, all the like. So,
Weddings?
no, well, I did say
No
funerals, didn't
weddings.
I?
Oh,
Did I say funeral? Oh, hey, Bruce Lombardo, good to see you. Glad to see. And I need to get you back on the page on the show sometime here, Bruce. You hard painting man. He is the Bob Ross of miniature paintings. He likes to paint those happy little orcs. So for my guest, the Nerdporeal, or should I say,
Admiral. Admiral.
Admiral Lifeform, and myself, I wish everybody out there a great evening. Thank you for joining us, and Kings, peace. Of course,
Peace.
the other thing that I have to need to do is I have to find this.